Okay. Paris is too quiet in the truck. I don't know how we can change that. Yeah, we're not on yet.
Jeremy,
are you sure?
Go to that. That's live timing.
Yeah, that's good. Crappy scores.
Turn the mics on. Mics on. Yeah, but they're not talking to us because we're on air in 30 seconds. Hello and welcome to the 2014 Le Mans 24 Hours. Live, extensive, exclusive coverage across Europe and wherever else you're watching on Eurosport 2 and Eurosport 1. Good afternoon and welcome to a very hot and sunny Le Mans. After storms and showers on Monday and into Tuesday morning, it has been very bright and sunny as we are now just a moment or two away from the start of live track action. A little bit of a change to the timetable this year compared to previous years. We are going on track at 4 o'clock local time for a 4-hour free practice session. Then it'll be 2 hours off, and then 10 to midnight for the first of our qualifying sessions. Tomorrow it'll be 7 to 9 and 10 till midnight, which is the habitual range of times for the afternoon and evening practices. Well, to start our extensive coverage off, up here in the booth overlooking the Ford Chicane, Martin Haven, Jeremy Shaw and Mark Cole. You catch us in the middle of making sure that everything is working still. And that is pretty much, Jeremy, the way that the teams are at the moment. Even though they had the test weekend a couple of weeks ago, a lot of them will have more changes being made on the car, and this is the first time to take them out on the track and ready to do some shakedown performance testing, really.
Yeah, good afternoon, Martin. Good afternoon, everybody. Great to be part of the team again here at Le Mans. And yeah, the test day a couple of weeks ago is certainly super useful for all of the teams and drivers. And there's a lot of data crunching, number crunching going on over the last week or so. And yes, tweaks to be made, but most of the teams seem to be pretty happy. There was no major dramas, I don't think, at the test day. So I think Mark Cole, everybody very much looking forward now to getting to the proper part of the race weekend underway.
Yeah, it's not just the test weekend they've had. They've also had, of course, all the scrutineering in the city centre over the last 2 days, and that again picks up things that they won't normally have spotted occasionally. Teams are sent away to do things, come back again, and so yeah, it's been a long haul, and so they haven't really had a break now for almost 12 days, and it's all going to be full on the next 4 days.
Yeah, some of the drivers have been here the whole time, some of them have been away, some of them come back again, and all sorts of different strategies amongst the drivers. Speaking to the Corvette guys yesterday, Tommy Milner, he's been here the whole time. Jordan Taylor went home for 3 days. Oliver Gavin went and raced last weekend in Salzburg, wasn't it, I think, or somewhere in Austria. And a very successful weekend here. So, but you know, everybody up and down pit lane, they really are excited to get this first official practice session underway, which is now just.
Yeah, and just to underline, it is practice session, and there will be time, but those times will count for nothing at the moment. That will all start this evening, a qualifying 1 for 2 hours. Tomorrow night, qualifying 2, qualifying 3, another full-on 4 hours. So they'll have had 6 hours to get those all-important times. And just remember, this is quite separate to the WEC in terms of qualifying. It's just one driver will get the qualifying time for the pole, unlike in the WEC where it's an aggregate of 2 drivers over 3 laps each.
Yeah, the traditional qualifying format here at the Le Mans 24-hour race. You're right, so effectively 3 sessions, aren't they, each of 2 hours long, 2 hours tonight, then 2 2-hour sessions again tomorrow, and whoever turns the fastest lap, whenever it is in any of those 3 sessions, they will have the honour of the pole position, and it's certainly going to be an interesting fight. Obviously at the front of the field we have the 3 factory prototype teams, with Audi and Toyota joined this year by Porsche, and certainly Martin Navel, a lot of excitement here to have Porsche, the most successful marque here in the history of Le Mans 24 Hours, back in the overall picture.
I think that's absolutely right, and of course, just to add to the different equations, the three factory teams have each skinned their cat in a different manner. This year, there's rules and regulations about how much energy you can use during the race. That's not driver energy, that's the car. So that is in terms of how much fuel, whether it's petrol or diesel, and how much electric energy that you can harvest and then reuse in the car to produce more power. And that is not, in the Group C era, you had a fuel allocation for the entire 24-hour race, or 1,000 kilometers or whatever it was. Here, it is reset and measured every single lap. So you can't save fuel and then whack up the boost and use it later. You can't overextend yourself in any lap without having to pay a penalty. If you use too much fuel in one lap, for instance, Mark, you've got 2 more laps to correct the balance over a 3-lap average. But even in qualifying and even in free practice, lap by lap, it is monitored live by the ACO, and penalties are imposed for anybody using more energy than they should.
Yeah, we saw this in Spa when Mark Webber went out in the Porsche and suddenly had to back off because they realised that he'd done a really quick lap. And as you say, this is all measured in kilograms per hour, and the average energy consumption is allowed over that 3-lap average. Kilograms.
Kilojoules.
Well, they'd say kilograms in the official thing I'm looking at.
In fuel is...
Oh, I see, right,
yeah.
Sorry.
Weight of the fuel.
And so you've got different fuel capacities for each configuration. The Audi's on 2 megajoules, and the Porsche and Toyota Tors on 4 megajoules. Right. So they've taken different routes. They can use different amounts of energy.
You are using apples and oranges there, because kilograms of fuel versus kilojoules of energy, so we mustn't confuse the two.
No relation between those two.
Because there's no chance that we do that, obviously. And we actually asked an engineer, didn't we, yesterday, what 6 kilojoules per lap actually meant, and to try and convert it into normal English. So we are ready for the start of 4 hours of free practice here at Le Mans. In just 30 seconds, the pit lane will open. Public roads were closed just after midday, and the track is ready. And Jeremy Shaw, actually, quite a lot of what was the Route Nationale, the N138, that is the Mulsanne Straight. First of all, we've got chicanes. Now, actually, there are a couple of shopping centres being built with roundabouts that bypass the track. So the whole thing of the Mulsanne being all public road, as it was in the since time immemorial, now less and less of it actually is public road full time. Yeah,
full time, that's true, but certainly you can drive down the vast majority of it, and we did that, did we not, last night, which was kind of cool actually. It must have been, it's the first time actually I'd driven down there in a long time. Yeah, there are, you have your own chicanes now if you're driving on the public roads, the slightly different chicanes, the ones the race car drivers will be using over the next few days.
Well, Jeremy, it's just as well you did do that last night, because this is the last year you'll be able to drive on the section from Mulsanne down to Enage. That becomes private next year. A new road's being built to bypass that. So anyone coming down here this weekend, make sure you get a chance to do it. But do watch out for the police. They've got not only their radar guns, but they've got breathalyzers as well.
Yeah, and that's what those lights were last night, Martin Haven.
Is that what they were? I thought they were just giving us an escort. So cars heading out on track, and obviously with the length of the lap here at Le Mans, it gives us 3 or 4 minutes before we even see a car start a genuine timed lap. One of the things that we're talking to a number of engineers over the last couple of days to try and work out in our heads at least vaguely what's going on with the different energy formats as we look at the number 14 Porsche, the new first time the LMP1 cars have been here on a race weekend at Le Mans. First time Porsche have been here in the top class in a race weekend at Le Mans since, Mark Cole, what year was their last? 98 was their last one, I guess.
Last win, yes.
Yeah.
They've still had Porsches here, obviously, over that time. But you say in LMP1 format, it was even earlier than that. The last real car there was Jochen Dauer when he did that extraordinary thing with a Porsche 956/962 and turned it into a GT car and found a loophole in the regs. But no, 16 wins for Porsche, and Toyota must start favourites this weekend. Jeremy, everyone has been saying is they've won the first 2 rounds of the championship, Silverstone and Spa, and what they've got is reliability, which Audi and Porsche have not found this year.
That's exactly right. And 4 second-place finishes for Toyota here at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and not yet that elusive victory, but you're right. We're back on. Not yet that...
Losing the sound, that's it.
Yeah, well, like everything else, we have to make sure that everything works. It's all built up from fresh. There are no permanent commentary positions here. Those went and became a hospitality unit a number of years ago. So we're in nice, warm porter cabins.
Yeah, so that's the number 7 Toyota we're just looking at there in the pits. But going out then, one of the number of new generation of coupe cars, some beautiful looking cars we've got here this weekend. Unfortunately, we're not going to see the new Lotus on track, although it is here in the paddock, and that has been another story. This is the G-Force coupe. It's not just the Oreca coupes, you've got the Ligiers now, and this is the future of this type of racing, Jeremy.
Great looking car too, isn't it? I think the new Ligier, Guy Ligier, I haven't seen him yet, but he is here and very much enthused about this whole project. It's a great looking car, the new coupe here, and it's going to be run. There's 3 of them in the race. One of them has done a lot more kilometres of testing. The other one, about 8,000 kilometres, I think, on the car that will be run under the Oak Racing banner. The kind of works car, if you like, of Alex Brundle, Jan Mardenborough and Mark Schulzinski. That car has done quite a lot of kilometres. The other car, the Team Asia car in particular, has done a shakedown, a 2-day shakedown at Magny-Cours. They were here for the test day, but still very much a very steep learning curve for that entire package. And of course, the Team Asia car is running with the HPD engine, whereas the factory car, the other Oak Racing entry, is running with the Nissan power plant.
Yeah, this is an extraordinary performance by Nissan this year. 13 Nissan-engined LMP2 cars are going to be in the race, 3 Judd-engined and 1 Honda performance development car. But Nissan, Martin, really have taken it over, haven't they?
As we have teething problems here, so there are teething problems in the truck. That is indeed the number 8 car on which the clock is running. That's Anthony Davidson. And those of you who are sports car cognoscenti will have spotted that is not a Felbermeyer Proton Porsche. He is the first man to start a flying lap at this year's Le Mans. And obviously, Toyota will hope that he will be the first man to finish the very last lap here at Le Mans as well.
And I think it was telling that was a car that was out at the top end of the pit lane, ready to go before everybody else. I think that's part of the plan here for Toyota. They are well prepared. They're ready to go. They've done all the testing. They've got an awful lot of miles on these very technically advanced cars. And we see one of the Audis come onto pit lane. Another car number 3. That would be the one driven by Felipe Albuquerque, Marco Bononomi, and Oliver Jarvis. And Toyota, they are absolutely ready for bear here. They're loaded for bear. They're ready to go. They're properly prepared. And that car first out on a racetrack, it's going to be, I think, the first one to set a representative lap time as well. I think it's all part of the plan, Mark.
Yep, indeed. But Bononomi obviously not happy with something. They brought that back into the garage. And the 33 car, that's in the hands of Tung Hai Lo. That's the... which one? The Ligier, that beautiful, pretty new Ligier coupes. These cars, I think, look absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
So very busy. People have been out there just getting one lap in just to get the feel for everything, making sure all the systems are working, water, oil, everything like this. It's just a safety thing, really.
Yeah, and good to see the coupes back in P2 class again, I think, from my perspective, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, of course, one of the reasons they do one lap and come in is it's a very long lap, and this is a very long session. And if you have a little issue that you don't discover in your first lap and you just sort of keep going round and it stops after 2 or 3 laps, that's 4 hours lost, and nobody can afford to lose 4 hours to their rivals. They need to have every minute on track. So come in, check everything over. Anywhere.
That was a
have audio back. Well, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully we are back in the room with you. Slight technical problem here. Anthony Davidson, first man's out on track. 3 minute 26, his first lap. And Hugues de Schonack from Orica, whose French-based team have been responsible for a lot of the actual running of the Toyota team on site to watch everything happening. Cars, of course, engineered and designed in the Cologne base for Toyota that was formerly their Formula One base, and the engine work done by Toyota Motorsport in Japan.
Yeah, very much a global effort, that Toyota factory, with the, as you say, the engines done in Japan, the chassis work all done in Germany, and all the race engineering done from France. So it's a fascinating concept they put together there, but it certainly seems to work. And for a first flying lap there, 3:26.4 for Anthony Davidson. That's pretty good going. The fastest lap here in the test that anybody did 10 days or so ago was a 3 minutes 23.0.
Report of a slow car, Marco Holzer's Porsche, one of the Pro Class cars, an out lap, and he is 7.5 kilometres into the lap and going slowly, so that's down after Mulsanne corner on what is normally the very fastest part of the track, running up towards the Porsche curves. Timing ticker will be going along your screen throughout proceedings, and there is the Zedric, or the Nissan Ziod RC.
Yep, number 0 in garage 56, although unbelievably we're down to 55 cars. They have been unable to get a full grid this year. A lot of that down to the world recession, economic problems, and that car being pushed along. And just to put in perspective what Martin was just saying about the timing scroll going across the top of your screen, Ant Davidson 3 seconds off their pace at the weekend, the test day 2 weekends ago. Interesting, there's been no rain since then, so hopefully a lot of the rubber that was there is still there.
What, apart from the massive storms the last couple of days?
Oh, you've had storms here?
Yeah, massive thunderstorms over Monday night into Tuesday.
Right. Okay, I arrived Tuesday afternoon, so missed all that. So
yes. It was extraordinarily humid in the centre of town during the qualifying. It was like Le Mans had suddenly been moved to Thailand. But again, yes, as you rightly say, you know, it has been public road again, and so there's the diesel and the muck and everything else down on the track, and it always takes an hour or two to really get it rubbered up and into a racetrack configuration. This track will change from now until the end of the race. Welcome back on air as you ride with the Manthey Racing Porsche, one of the 2 factory Porsches in the Pro Class. Marco Holzer, the 25-year-old from Birmingham, which is where Porsche Motorsport is based. The Weissach test track, the nearby town is Birmingham, so all factory Weissach cars have BO as their SIG. So it's all going very well indeed, and we're back in the room. Apologies for that. Now, he was shown as being slow out of Mulsanne corner, and he is creeping back, and he's using no revs at all. So it does actually sound as though he's got a broken drive shaft on the back. That's what I think what is rattling away at the back. He's just got it in first gear, and he is just letting the car idle its way back in. So yeah, we talked about this, didn't we? We've also seen the Nissan Ziodric, the electric-powered car, the Garage 56 entry stop on track. We talked about that when cars came in after a single lap, Jeremy, because if you do have a problem and the car is stuck on track, all 4 hours go by before they have a chance, unless there's a major red flag period. There's Olaf Manthey watching on the monitors. Unless there's a red flag, they're not going to send a flatbed out to bring your car back for you. So you either get it on track and running, or you lose all 4 hours.
Yeah, so but certainly not the way that the Olaf Manthey's team wanted to start off this weekend. Of course, the winning team here in GTE last year, a tremendous battle it was all the way through, even if it was spoiled by the safety car. We'll talk about that one later.
Yes, and stand by for rants on that later.
But we might have a new safety car procedure this year. Well, we're going to have a new safety car procedures this year. Well, not necessarily safety car procedures, but procedures in case there are incidents out on track. We will come to that later on, but certainly here is Marco Holzer trying to limp this car back to the pit lane. This is pretty scary, I tell you what. Going through here, through the Porsche curves at sort of walking pace is not really what you want when you've got other cars flying through there right on the limit at 150 miles an hour through many of these corners. That's a scary place to be on this racetrack.
Now, surely that should be the perfect opportunity to practice the rolling yellow, but in fact the track is shown as full green. Now, what Jeremy is talking about is what's happened in the Dubai 24 Hours for a number of years is that instead of using a number of safety cars, they have just applied, if they needed to, a track-wide speed limit, and everybody uses that. Now, what they're going to do here, because the track is so long, unless there is a very major incident, they will apply a local yellow flag zone, and the drivers have a new warning beacon on the top of the dashboard in every single car, an ACO one rather, which will warn them that they're coming into a yellow zone, and when they are in the yellow zone, speed there is 60 kilometers an hour, the same as the pit lane, so it'll be governed either manually if you really want the penalty that badly, or by using the pit limiter speed button until you clear the problem and you get to the green flag. So there's a warning zone to slow down, which will be indicated by boards saying P, so prepare, preparation, whatever, and then you hit the yellow zone, and we believe that they should have a 60k board or a 60 board at the start of the yellow zone, just to remind drivers what the speed limit is, and then you go green at the end. So it's a great way of dealing with a stationary car or some smaller accident that doesn't require the whole race to be neutralised.
Quite bizarrely, at Le Mans this is code 60. On the other WEC races it's code 80. It's 80 kilometres an hour, and the driver gets this warning on his dash 80, and you stick at that, and if you exceed that, you will get a stop and go or drive through one of those. I mean, he's made the pit lane now, so in comes Marco Holzer, just rolling in there, and as you said, Martin, almost certainly a broken drive shaft.
And you know, look at the way he's barely on the track, as much as the car as he can is off the road without actually compromising his stop. So not to block the track, so not to block the pit access road, because he knows they're stuffed and he doesn't want anybody else to be. Sister car, number 20, Mark Webber's helmet visible in that. He gets pushed back into the Porsche team in the 919 hybrid. The starting drivers, incidentally, have been nominated in all these cars, so I can now tell you that the 14 car will be started by Switzerland's Neil Jani. Mark Lieb is the first man in, doing a little bit of shakedown work here, but the driver for each car who will start has already been nominated. Be interesting to see whether that transpires to be how they actually start the race or not. Well, Holzer's made it back. That's not a bad job. No. He's only been gone 20 minutes and he's driven half the lap, basically, you know, effectively in neutral.
Yeah, of course, yeah. The flip side of that would be he hadn't got it back. As you said, he'd been out there for 4 hours, missed all this setup time.
Do you know what? With 4 hours, he'd have been better getting out and starting to push it. Yes. In 4 hours, he might have made it back. Of course, they might have taken him off the track.
They could have sent out a flatbed around the outside of the track and pick him up from wherever he was, probably, and bring it back. But yeah, hats off there to Marco Holzer for bringing that car back, and now they can get to work on it and hopefully get it out. Well, they should have plenty of time, assuming that hasn't caused any other dramas underneath the skin of that 991 Porsche. You can bring it back to the pit lane, get it back out again. Shouldn't take too long really to fix a broken drive shaft.
Looking here at all the manufacturers in the P2 class, we've got Nissan, we've got the new Ligiers, we've got the Zytex, we've got the Orecas. What we don't have, in fact, in P2 or in P1 for the first time in a very long time, Mark, is anything from Huntingdon. There are no Lolas. Of course, Lola no longer in Huntingdon. It's now owned by Multimatic and based effectively in the States, but there are no Lolas in the race, and we don't actually, it's so long since there's not been a Lola, none of us can actually really remember when that might have been.
Yeah, and of course, remember also, no Pescarolo, no Courage. Okay, so what's happened is that the Pescarolos have morphed into the Morgans, and the Courage has morphed into today's Orecas, but they're, along with Lola, great names, historic names have all disappeared, but that is just all part of the recycling of sports car racing.
And other historic names like Ligier coming back to the sport, so it's kind of swings and
Alpine
roundabouts
as well.
Yeah, and Alpine, yes.
Now,
they were here last year, at least in name.
Yep.
I wanted to ask, did Ligier race here in period as Ligiers with sports cars?
Oh yes, very much so.
You see, now that's just sort of beyond my remit. I definitely was
yellow
not
and
here.
green, BP colours, Guy Ligier driving.
Yeah.
Well, again, Guy Ligier, 84 years old. I was talking about this to Olivier Panis a couple of weeks ago, who's next door to us in the French booth. And he was saying Guy Ligier is so excited, beyond himself with excitement that Ligiers are racing again at Le Mans. And he said he is determined to come to the race. He's 84 years old. He's like he's 14 now. I said, so he hasn't calmed down? He said, no, he's exactly how he was. And of course, Panis, the last man ever to win a race for Ligier, because he won their last Formula One Grand Prix in Monaco in whenever it was, a long while ago.
Was it?
94? Yeah, maybe.
No, it's Prost in 95, so yeah, it must have been just before.
Yeah, 94 then. So
yeah. But interestingly, Guy Ligier, a rugby international, of course, played for France, and we got someone else in this race who most of you football fans will recognise.
A different category of football, if you like.
Fabien Barthez, who, of course, was the goalkeeper when France defeated England in the World Cup.
Well, when France defeated everyone in the World Cup, of course.
But Fabien loves his motorsport. He was last year's French GT champion, big friend of Alain Prost, and he was always at the Formula One races with the Prost team, and he was there at Monaco for that 95 win, and he said, I want to win Le Mans for my friend Alain.
Yeah, and we won everything, absolutely everything there was to win on the football field, certainly, and trying to do here. He certainly set himself up on the right path here, has Fabien Barthez, because he's shown good pace. He's certainly picking up the pace. He started in the sport, about 5 years ago, probably, Mark, wasn't it? And drove Porsche for much of his career, his second career, if you like.
Yeah.
And certainly is taking this thing seriously.
We're just someone else, of course, who's attracted a huge amount of attention and couldn't get near in scrutineering, Patrick Dempsey, the Hollywood star, TV actor. Of course, Jeremy, I mean, you're based in America. Patrick Dempsey probably means a lot more in the States than he does here, although everyone knows him from Grey's Anatomy. But he's huge in the States, isn't he?
Yeah, but he is over here too. I mean, it's remarkable. I remember here, when he first came over here in 2009. I mean, the crowds around, and it was the same last year as well when he came back for his second race here at Le Mans. The crowds around him were more than anybody else by a considerable factor, and it's been the same all the way through this week. But now he's kind of used to it. I think when he first came here in 2009, it was very much a distraction for him, and I don't think he was really able to concentrate on the job he was trying to do in the race car, and his primary job there is just to become more accepted and become acknowledged as a proper, at least semi-professional race car driver.
Yeah, and he, of course, finished fourth last year in GTM with his pal and Joey Foster, their business partner. Joe Foster, sorry. Business Joey Hand, isn't it? Yeah, Joe Foster, they're business partners, aren't they, the two of them? And
or Joey Foster in the UK, of course, who's broken his back. How many times, Joey? I know you're back in action now, so it's good to see you. Sure, you're not here this weekend, but that's a strong team. They've led the race for Goodley Porsche, did they not, 1 year ago, Mark, and ended up with a fourth place finish, but it could have easily been so much better than that.
Yep, and so we're just get it over with now. Dr. Dreamy, let's not mention that again.
I'm not going to mention it, that's for sure. I'll tell you what is of interest. So Anthony Davidson, we saw him. He was the first guy out on the track. His first flying lap was a 3 minutes 26.4. He's gone quicker than that on the fourth lap around was a 3:26 flat. Since then, on lap 6, he did a 3:25.7. Last lap around in traffic, a 3:34. And that car is now into the pits. But it's interesting, he did 7 laps right out of the box here. No one else, I think, has done that. Just about everybody else has been into the pits at least for one stop. But Anthony Davidson, a good, strong opening stint. And whether he was planning on doing a full fuel stint, we don't know. But it certainly was a good long stint. 7-lap stint to start off a weekend at Le Mans 24 hours is fairly unusual.
And we're just looking at P2. Frank Meyer has just popped in quickest lap of P2 so far, 3:44. Frank is on board the Swiss Race Performance Oreca Judd. That's a 3.6 litre V8, slightly smaller capacity than all the Nissans, which are 4.5 litre. But Frank finished second in P2 here in 2011. He's driving with John Lancaster, who's a rookie. That's amazing. I mean, John Lancaster, Britain seems to be racing so long, but his first time at Le Mans, and the third driver in that car is Switzerland's Michael Frey.
Yeah, John Langsey's still only 25, isn't he? But he's been around a lot. He's finished second in the European F3 Championship. He's had wins in GP2, in Renault 3.5. So, a very accomplished driver. And he, like so many youngsters nowadays, beginning to look seriously at sports cars as being their future in the sport. They realise how few and far between the opportunities are in Formula One. So a lot more opportunities here, and perhaps more opening up in the future in sports car racing.
So 3 of the 4 Gulf Aston Martins there lined up in pit lane. One of those, as you can see from the screen, run by for Craft Bamboo. They're all run by the factory, of course, and John Gow is the mastermind in that.
Well, to a degree, they do have separate teams, some of them from Aston Martin Racing. The Bamboo Craft team is actually Bamboo Engineering, former World Touring Car Championship team, so their mechanics and their engineer, Nick Clipson, has come straight from their World Touring Car base at Silverstone. So they're sort of branching out into other sports. But yes, you're right.
They're still entered under Aston Martin.
Oh yes,
Racing,
yeah, very much. And it is a factory-built car, so it's come all the way from ProDrive to Silverstone and then on to Le Mans.
And of course, Aston Martin coming here as the reigning world GT-AM champions. It's the only thing they did actually manage to pull off this year. And Stuart Hall will be joining us as one of our commentators. And
his pass is here with world champ Stewie Hall written on it, so he's on his way down to join us.
Martin, another champion's with us at the moment. Perhaps after the break we can just have a quick word with Liz Halliday, who's going to be our pit reporter this weekend. Of course, she was Sebring 24 Hours winner, so she has a huge history in motorsport as well, and her 10th year, I believe, at Le Mans, either as a driver or in media.
And just before we go to break, let's just say new fastest time there. Stefan Sarrazin now, the number 7 Toyota, has turned a 3:25.463. Also new fastest time in LMP2. Karun Chandhok in the Murphy prototypes, Orica Nissan, has turned a 3:43.6 in car number 48. Fastest in GTE Pro, Nick Tandy in the surviving factory Porsche, car number 91, a 4:06.58. Fast in GTE AM, and second fastest overall in a GTE cars, Sam Bird in one of the AF Corsa Ferraris, car number 81, a 4:01.065.
And there you can see another one of the Ligiers. Look at the front end of this car, how neatly crafted it is. High nose like a Formula One car, air venting there in those meshes, the low wing at the front. It's a really intricate piece of kit. Very, very nice looking car. And of course, that is from the Oak Racing stable, and Oak gave Pescarolo his factory back and have sort of become a de facto Le Mans-based manufacturer with those Ligier cars as part of their on-road operation.
Welcome back to Eurosport's coverage of the Le Mans 24 Hour. The first practice session underway. We just almost half an hour in, well, exactly now half an hour into the session. Fastest time is the number 7 Toyota of Stefan Sarrazin. Set the time just a few moments ago, a 3:25.463, eclipsing the time that Anthony Davidson has set right out of the box. He did 7 laps right out at the beginning of the session, the best of which was a 3:25.7. Put that into perspective, the fastest of the Audis so far, third fastest overall, Marco Bononomi in car number 3, a 3:28.5. The best of the Porsches is car number 20, Mark Webber, a 3:30.764. Those are the 4 fastest cars in P1 at the moment.
Yeah, and Sam Bird, the first of the GT runners to dip below the 4-minute barrier, we noticed, and that's in an AM car. He, of course, is a pro driver, Sam, and had that win at Silverstone in GT-AM this year. But talking of winners, Sebring 12 Hours, one of the world's toughest races, and Liz Halliday, who's been on the Eurosport commentary team for several years now, she's been upgraded, if you like, to on screen this year. Liz, great to have you back with us.
Hello. I don't know if it's an upgrade. I've had so much fun working with all you guys forever, so you might just see me turn up here and having withdrawal symptoms from being up in the commentary box, but it should certainly be exciting being down there in pit lane doing the 24-minute shows and be sort of in all the action. So hopefully I can bring some new insight to stuff and keep it coming.
You told us you've managed to book the Mark Webber interview at some stage, so everyone's going to be waiting to hear that, and I guess Pat Dempsey as well.
Yeah, Yes, you're going to see that on the 24-minute show today. I believe it's airing at about 9:30 p.m. French time. So make sure that you guys are all watching, because it should be good. We've got some great interviews lined up, and I think this is going to be one of the best races we've had for years.
Yeah, well, because you've been with us all these years, Liz, and I mean we've now got Porsche back as a factory, and I mean what difference is that going to make to the race and to the attractiveness of the race to casual observers?
I think it's going to be incredible, and especially because they've been so fast. They've already shown they really are a force to be reckoned with. I hope they can go the distance. I think some people are thinking, well, Toyota came in, they didn't. But remember, when Toyota first came in, they had an accident, actually. We don't know if they could have gone the distance with certainly one of the cars. So I'm excited to see what they can do. I think all three of the top running cars have got really different systems. So we're going to see some of the cars being quicker in different pieces of the circuit. So it's going to come down to who's clever, who can manage the traffic, who can figure out where their cars are faster than the others. It's going to be a real old-fashioned race.
Yeah, it's a real chess match going on out there, I think, because certainly they do make their horsepower or energy use in different ways in different parts of the racetrack. So there's a lot of strategies of when you use the ultimate performance of the car, because you cannot use the ultimate performance of the car all the way around the lap, because you will use too much energy and or too much fuel on that lap. So you have to manage where you do it, and planning ahead. And I think for the drivers, I think it's an even bigger challenge this year than in the past.
It's going to be a real task. We were speaking to a bunch of the Audi guys and some of the Porsche drivers earlier, and they were saying that the car is going to be different in different corners all the time and different pieces of the lap. Like they're going to have boost in places where they didn't the lap before, and it's totally down to the drivers as well. They can change lots of things while they're going. It's more like an F1 car almost. We're reaching this crazy level of hybrid technology, and I think it's put a whole new spin on it, and I think we'll see a real race on our hands.
Toyota have got 1,000 horsepower now, and they're not denying that. They can use that 4 times a lap, that full 1,000.
They can use as many times as they like.
Or maybe 12. Yeah, it depends how often, how much they've got, of course.
Unlike last year, they can only use the hybrid power in certain parts of the racetrack. Now you can use whatever power you've got whenever you like, but
as long as you've got it.
And it's a very big but. You cannot use more energy, fuel on any one lap. So that is the limiting factor here. So you've got to be really smart. If you use the big boost to get past somebody, then you've got to back it down again later in the lap to make sure you don't overstep the fuel balance. So it's a real fine line that the teams and particularly the drivers have to tread.
So Liz, you've spent quite a long time already in the pits last couple of days, obviously just doing all your homework, getting everything together. Big news is Nissan is coming back full on LMP1 next year. We don't quite know what guys yet, but how long can Ferrari then resist coming back?
Oh, I know, that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, Nissan is very confident, I have to say. They're saying we're going to come back and win. Not just come back, but they're going to win, which is perhaps a little bit of overconfidence. But hey, it makes us all hungry to see what they're bringing to the party. And certainly it's made all of the Porsche, Audi, and Toyota drivers excited, because they don't want to be out there with nobody to race against. They want to have a real race at the front of the field. So that's going to be exciting. And then, like you say, when is Ferrari going to get the bug and say, come on, we're tired of not being at the front of the grid?
Well, Liz, on Saturday afternoon, Fernando Alonso is going to be starting the race, so we're relying on you to grab him and ask the question.
I'll certainly try. I've never met him, so that would be great. You'll see some rogue person running in a Eurosport suit trying to grab him.
But really, really exciting times. And of course, Nissan, ever innovative, ever creative, running this Ziod here, which unfortunately is out on the track at the moment. But part of their plan this year is they're going to run one full lap in each of their stints under electric power.
Oh, I wonder if they're going to do it. I think the verdict's out. I hope it's going to work.
I'm going to do it now because it stops out on the racetrack, isn't it?
Oh, there we go. We might just see that happening. I know they said it's easier if it's a little bit cooler, so it's maybe not ideal. It is very hot today. I'd say it's sort of upper 20s today. So, well, we might see history now. I don't know. Wouldn't they say that?
Well, at the test weekend under electric power, it was as quick as the GTE Ferraris.
But was it on full electric?
We don't know.
No, I don't think it was.
When they did run it.
I don't think it was.
That's what they're trying to tell us.
We'll try and figure that out today.
New fastest time in P2, Jan Mardenborough in car number 35 for Oak Racing has turned to 3 minutes 42.277, so it's about almost a second quicker than Paul-Luc Chatin in the Alpine car number 36. So they're the fastest two in P2. Third fastest in P2, car number 48, Karun Chandhok for Murphy Prototypes in the Oreca. So again, 3 different chassis there at the top of the charts now in P2. The Ligier of Jan Mardenborough, the Alpine of Paul-Luc Chatin, and Karun Chandhok in the Oreca. So And the Orecas, they've all got a new update kit, a new aero kit for this weekend, which apparently has gained them as much as 7 kilometers an hour on the straight. So it's a radical update in terms of a big leap forward in terms of straight line speed, and that's of course exactly what you need at Le Mans.
It's actually a big enough update that they've changed the names of all the cars. They're now 03Rs instead of just 03s. So the ACO's had to change all their timing stuff. But that's, as you say, big move there. The coupes, of course, Liz, try your experiences at LMP2, Lola, wasn't it? Open cars. How much harder is it going to be on a hot weekend like this in a closed coupe LMP2?
Well, it's definitely going to be tough. I mean, nowadays they have regulations in place where the cockpit of the cars can't reach above, I believe it's 30 degrees Celsius, which back years ago they could crank right on up to 50, which was insane. And I can speak from experience, not pleasant. But yeah, so that'll make a difference. But definitely there's an advantage being in an open cockpit car with the air, and certainly from a visibility perspective as well. I know that it's a great feeling to know that you can see everything around you in one of those cars, where a lot of the guys in these closed cockpit vehicles, it's such a small space. If you go and have a look in one, it's a tiny little space. It's like a little spaceship, and they really don't have the peripheral vision, and some of the cars even less so than last year.
No, well, one of the things that the rules in P1 certainly for this year, one of the rules was to raise the driver a little bit, to give the cars are narrower, and the drivers certainly in the new P1 cars have much better visibility than in the past.
Because I've had guys complaining about it, funnily enough. A couple of the LMP2 guys were saying they felt it was worse this year. Yeah, and some of the P2 cars, they said in some of the changes they've done, they said they can see less this year, which is weird. So
well, certainly in P1 that was one of the big things because we've seen that in the Audis the last few years, that they've clearly had problems in judging overtaking maneuvers, and that is one of the things that the rules makers wanted to make sure that its visibility is much better in the P1 cars, and certainly the drivers are grateful of that.
So Liz, going back to your
different regulations, P1 and P2, of course.
Yeah. So Liz, your win at Sebring with Dyson Racing, Chris Dyson's here, isn't he? And still going strong.
He is, yeah. I raced against them. I was with Intersport when I won.
Intersport,
but,
against Dyson,
obviously I raced with Chris for many years, and a real great ambassador for our sport. He's been involved with racing as long as I can remember, and was such a fast prototype driver. I was thrilled when I saw him on the entry list. I bet he's just so excited to be back here and in a really good car as well.
He's with 3-time winner Tom Kimber-Smith, but of course the absolute unknown is this young guy, just Matthew McMurray, just 16 years old. I mean,
how old do I feel? I raced against his dad for a long time, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, am I that old? How long ago?
People are already saying, isn't this too young, too early, too soon?
Well, no, he's been fast, hasn't he?
The thing about it is, I mean, I've seen Matt McMurray race in the US now for the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, he started off doing the Bondurant school, then the Skip Barber Racing School. Last year, he raced in USF 2000, which is a proper championship, part of the first step on the Mazda road to Indy. So there's USF 2000 and Pro Mazda Indy Lights in the Verizon IndyCar Series, and that is the first step on that. He also raced last year and is this year doing a full season in the Coupe-Tard's Prototype Lights Championship, which is basically a Pro Mazda car with bodywork on it, all developing bodywork a la sports car. So he's done an awful lot of driving. He's had a full-time driver coach, Gerardo Bonilla, who's a former champion at several levels in the US. So, he's taking it seriously. He's got a lot of miles under his belt over the last two or 3 years in particular, and so he is taking it seriously. I'll certainly give him credit for that. Have the results been there? Well, no, not yet, but at least he is taking it seriously, and this is not, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't really in favour. That was his stated goal, was to be the youngest driver at Le Mans. Well, for me, that's not a legitimate goal in this sport, so I certainly had a problem with that, but he is taking it seriously, and he is driving as much as he possibly can in as many different cars as he possibly can. So he is as best prepared as he could be to race here. And also, to be fair, he's probably got a lot more experience of driving in the last 2 years than the vast majority of people in this whole field, to be perfectly honest.
And he's going to break a record. If he starts the race, he's going to break the record which Ricardo Rodriguez set in 1962 with 17 years and 1 month. And of course, at the moment, I mean, if he comes to England, You can't even drive a car then. You have to be 18 years old. That's 17 to drive.
And here he is at Le Mans earlier than most people get their driving license. It's really not fair, is it, if you think about it? But I mean, brilliant. And I think the proof will be in the driving. I think that's what it's going to come down to, is he's going to need to grow up a lot here. Obviously, this is a big, daunting circuit, you know, late at night. The closing speeds are different than you'd find anywhere else. So I think that's going to be a big, steep learning curve for him. But like you said, Jeremy, I think he has put the work in, and I think he's really got his sort of job-like head on in the game, and I hope that lasts through the race.
No, it's a good luck to you, Matthew. And of course, Harry Tinknell, another name that we should be looking at. He's been mentored by Alan McNish over the last few years. He's making his debut as a rookie here at Le Mans, driving the Autosport Zytek with Simon Dolan and Mark Genet. Now, that's a big name.
Let me interrupt you briefly. Just say we have a new fastest time. Anthony Davidson just flashed across the line at a 3 minutes 25.3. So we're getting down to some pretty good lap times now. The fastest time in the test here was a 3:23.0. So only a couple of seconds away from that, and very early in the going here, Liz.
Oh gosh, I mean, we've barely been running at all. The track will be quite green, quite greasy, and especially with the weather they've had the last few days, it really can bring some oil up on the circuit. And it's never a nice place, Le Mans, right at the beginning. You want to wait till things rubber up a little bit. Some cars have run around, puts a bit of grip into the surface. But certainly that is an impressive time, and faster than we've seen for a while this early on in the proceedings. And I would say they've not had to try that hard for that time.
Yeah, and then now the Pro GTs are now starting to establish themselves. James Collado has gone fastest in the 71 Ferrari. That's the AF Corse Ferrari Italia. He's sharing with Olivier Beretta, a really experienced driver, 7 wins here, and with David Rigon, who of course drove for 8-star last year. So they're now starting to establish themselves ahead of the AM drivers.
And interesting having Olivier Beretta in a Ferrari. I always, forever in my head, think of him as the Corvette man, because I raced against him for so long in a Corvette, and he's just such a talented driver in anything he's in. And
well, probably for Jeremy and I, it's more Viper man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, before that, you're right. Yeah.
And what a great shame, Jeremy. Viper didn't make it. They were
decided not to come.
We voted them the car of the year last year, and they decided not to come because they said they're not selling enough cars to warrant a full-on motorsport program outside America.
It costs an awful lot of money to come here to Le Mans, doesn't it?
So we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. So sit back, get a cup of coffee or tea, and enjoy what we got. A long, long way to go yet. 3.5 hours of free practice.
Welcome back to Eurosport. No change at the top. It's still Anthony Davidson. We're in the. We've got 45 minutes gone now in the first practice session. 4 hours this first practice session. Qualifying will be later on this evening. The first of 3 2-hour qualifying sessions. Fastest time so far set just a little while ago by Anthony Davidson in car number 8, who set the pace very early on in this session. He was briefly headed by his teammate Stefan Sarrazin in the Toyota car number 7. But now it's Davidson back on top again. 3 minutes 25.311. Fastest in P2, Jan Mardenborough in the Ligier of Oak Racing, car number 35, Ligier Nissan. He's turned a 3 minutes 40.6, so he's extended his margin over the second place car of Paul-Luc Chatin, car number 36, the Alpine Nissan. In fastest of the GTE cars, car number 71, one of the 7 AF Corse Ferrari 458 Italias, James Collado, a newcomer to sports car racing, already down below the 4-minute bracket, 3 minutes 59.461. The fastest of the amateur cars in the car number 71 is shown. It's car number 81, but somebody jumped ahead there. It's car number 81 is shown as second fastest in the GTE category overall and fastest of the amateur cars. And that is the car that will be shared by Stephen White, Michele Rugolo and Sam Bird, who set that time a little while ago.
And I think that's going to be a really tough category this year. I think GTE, the amateur category, is one to watch. We're going to have a real hot battle there. I'd say most of the amateur, quote-unquote, drivers that are in there are very good drivers. They would say gentleman drivers, but really, come on, these guys are fast. And I think we've got real quality this year in that group.
You're absolutely right. Plus, they've got some really serious pros in that GTE AM class as well. You have to have at least one silver or bronze. All the drivers are rated through the FIA these days. There's 4 categories are rated. There's platinum at the top, and then gold, and silver, and then bronze. And for the P2 and GTE AM class, the 2 Pro-Am classes, you have to have at least 2 bronze or silver drivers in each of those 2 classes.
I think we've got great racing throughout this year. I don't think we've seen such a big GTE AM class before. The P2 class is massive, and also really a lot of class drivers. I personally couldn't pick a winner out of that P2 class if you put a gun to my head and told me to. There's no chance. There's probably 4 or 5 that could take it home, on speed and reliability alone.
I think it's 14 or 15, quite frankly. I mean, seriously, there's really only 3 or 4 that I would count out as thinking they don't really have much of a chance, but pretty much everybody else.
And then LMP1, could you really choose one? I mean, come on, like Audi's got years and years, but I really think it could be a year for Toyota. They're fast. They've had years to fix the problems and the glitches and the issues. They've got a really great hybrid system. Both Porsche and the Audi drivers have said to me they feel it might be Toyota's race to lose if they get it right.
Well, here we are talking about Toyotas, and who has gone to the top of the charts now fastest overall is not one of the Toyotas, but
just to spite me.
It's another one, Audi of Luca Di Grassi, who's turned a 3 minutes 24.729. So now finally 48 minutes into the session, the Audis beginning to show their hand.
What a gig he got, taking Alan McNish's seat from last year in the #1 car, so he's got a lot to live up to.
It's a big seat to fill, isn't it, really?
He finished 3rd last year, so he's got huge experience here at Le Mans. But there's interesting what you said earlier about Nissan coming on really strong, coming in next year, and they said we're going to win in 2016. Well, the late great Tom Walkinshaw, when he came here with the Jaguars, said it takes 3 years to win Le Mans. That's exactly what he did. Toyota, this is their 3rd year,
exactly.
So let's really watch that space.
And they've been super fast this year. We had 2 rounds of the World Endurance Championship already this season, and it's certainly been pretty much all Toyota, hasn't it, Mark?
Yep, it has. I mean, just they blitzed everything for the last 3 races. That's Bahrain at the end of last year, the opening 2 rounds this year at Silverstone and Spa, and they've been untouchable.
Completely different cars this year. I mean, last year, that was one thing towards the end of that package of rules, but now this year's car is completely different. I mean, everything is different about the car. Different chassis, different engine, slightly larger engine, 3.7 litres as opposed to 3.5 for that V8, 3.4 for that V8 engine last year,
and 4-wheel drive, of course.
And now with 4-wheel drive with the new 6 megajoule hybrid system.
For those of you that are wondering about the number 92 car, we saw him limping back around the circuit. We've heard that it was a drive shaft failure is what we're hearing at the moment, so that's not great news for them. We currently also have no news on the Azad car that's stuck out on track at the moment.
Right. It's still shown as out on a race.
Yeah, I think it's just parked up, but we don't really know any answers yet, and hopefully we'll hear something soon.
Apparently the electric drive system not functioning enough, at least at this stage, to get that car back to the pit lane, it would appear. But as Martin Haven suggested earlier on, when we heard the onboard from that number 92 Porsche, that broken drive shaft, and as we said at the time, Holzer did a nice job to get that car back to the pit lane. Nose change here on one of the Porsches, just trying a slightly different configuration. They would come here for this weekend.
Well, Rebellion have just finally got their number 12 car out. Matthew Besch has just put that into 8th place. So very tidy order now. We've got all our P1 cars in the top 13. Then it's all P2s, and then we get to the GTs. So it's very tidy in the right order. But the fastest man in P2 is still Jan Mardenborough, the man who really impressed us last year. A heroic drive throughout the night to take that podium position in his first ever Le Mans, having been come out of Swansea as a PlayStation gamer.
I think yeah, I am on air, sorry. I think he was my pick of the race last year for driving, if I recall, because he was so impressive. And I love the hashtag for their Twitter feed, which is eat, sleep, race, repeat. And that really is the way those GT Academy boys work. He literally does nothing but that. And it's been an incredible rise from sitting in front of his computer playing a game to literally nearly being on the brink of testing an F1 car, so I hear, through the grapevine. And what an impressive driver he is. Unbelievable last year in the changeable conditions. I'd say it was one of the toughest races condition-wise as a driver, and he just ate it up. First Le Mans, no problem.
And doing an awful lot of driving too. Racing in Formula 3 over the winter. He raced down to the Toyota Racing Series in New Zealand, which was a very hectic 5 weekends, 3 races a weekend, and only came very close to winning that championship, which is pretty impressive considering at that stage he'd been driving a single-seater for only a little bit more than a year.
Yeah, so good work by Jan there, and as I say, he's top of the pile in that Ligier, that beautiful Ligier Coupe. Liz, does a Coupe give you an advantage over an open car here at Le Mans?
I think from an aero perspective, I think there is an advantage there, and I think that's why we're seeing more and more teams head that direction. It's interesting to see how much they change the shape by little tweaks every year, and I think it's just perfecting the aerodynamics, but certainly having that smooth front over the top rather than your head in the way is certainly going to help a little bit. Definitely in the LMP1 cars, I think there's obviously they can't have anything with Coupe, but there would be a huge disadvantage, I think, in not going that direction.
The Toyotas then full on at the moment, going through Tertre Rouge and then charging down the Mulsanne Straight. We saw earlier on, Jeremy, they put some new tarmac down there and a couple of cars bottoming out with sparks. I mean, that won't obviously last long because that will have worn away, won't it?
One would hope so, yeah, because that was a fairly major shower spark. Martin Havens just checking out his Twitter feed, finding out from the number 20 Porsche of Mark Webber in the pits. They're changing the nose section on the car, just trying different cooling configurations. And Liz, you were talking about a little while ago, cooling very much a factor, particularly with these hybrid systems on these ultra sophisticated LMP1 cars. So, and it is a pretty hot data. It's not supposed to be, I believe, quite so hot over the weekend as it is right now. So far as the team's concerned, perhaps they'll get a little bit of a break as we head into the weekend.
Well, all 3 of these cars we've talked about at the front of the grid have got very, very different hybrid systems. Each car is totally different. And I think the Porsche car in particular, their system does suffer from heat. So they definitely would be hoping for a cooler day. I spoke to Mark earlier today, and he was saying that really this is a voyage of discovery for them. Although they've tested, it's the first year with this car. They've spent very little time at Le Mans in the car. So I think a lot of this practice session will be trying different things, getting an ideal setup for the race. They know they can be fast. They want to be able to take the fight to Audi, but it is still a mission of find out as much as we can.
And you're right, completely different configurations. We've got the Audi this year running a 4-litre V6 turbo diesel direct injection engine. The Toyota is running a 3.7 normally aspirated V8, and a Porsche just a tiny little 2-litre V4, again with direct injection and turbocharged, but 3 very different configurations. Mark Lieb was just hustling through here. I saw his last time. He's just starting a hot lap, actually. Mark Lieb in the number 14 Porsche, 7th fastest at the moment so far, 3 minutes 30.3. Mark Webber in the sister car. After that change, he's just improved his time as I'm talking, 3 minutes 27.1. So let's recap again. It's Loic Duval is now at the wheel of the car number 1, but the time of 3 minutes 24.729 was set a little while ago by Lucas de Grassi. Second fastest car number 8, Anthony Davidson. Third fastest car number 7, the sister Toyota of Stefan Sarazam. Fourth place, number 2 Audi of Benoit Truellier, 3:26.1. Marco Bononomi in the third of the Audis, 3:26.4, and now Mark Webber just under 3 minutes 27.1.
And I would say for those of you Porsche fans out there, I would not panic too much that these times aren't that quick yet from them, because these are very, very fast cars, and I think we'll see them really come into their own as it gets cooler and we come into the actual qualifying sessions. This is really just figuring out the best setup, but there is a lot more to come from these cars, I'm confident.
I just want to talk about something now before it changes, Michael. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you. In GTE, I think it's kind of cool. We've got 3 young British drivers at the top of the charts. James Collado in car number 71. Nick Tandy for Porsche has just jumped into second in car number 91 for Porsche. And then the Ferrari of Sam Bird, who said earlier on with Sam Bird. So it's James Collado, Nick Tandy and Sam Bird, 1, 2, 3 in GTE. And they're now down into the 3:58 second range. 3:58.2 by James Collado, 3:58.7 for Nick Tandy. Sorry, Mark.
That's okay. Where are the Corvettes, Jeremy? I can't quite see your screen. So
they are together currently in 4th and 5th in the Pro category.
I mean, a lot of people are saying, wow, Corvette have had a real Corvette summer here already this year. I mean, last weekend at the A1 ring, Ollie Gavin took 2 wins in the GT Masters, and then the GT Open at Portimao. Corvette also had 2 wins, one with Nicky Pastorella, the other with Maxime Soulet. And so, I mean, they are full on in GT3, GT2 at the moment here, and this must give so much confidence to Pratt & Miller and the factory coming here, knowing that their cars are winning all the time in Europe at the moment.
Yeah, this is, of course, a different car. They're running the C7R here. But,
and it's a beautiful car. It's mean. It looks amazing. It reminds me of the Lister Storm a little bit, with those really hard, nasty edges on it. It's great, and I think they all love it as a car to drive. They're all saying this could be the car they've kind of been waiting for, and wouldn't it be great if Corvette could win again? I would love to see them back up on the top. It would just be fabulous.
Very much so. 7 wins they've had here, I think, in the past, isn't it? And all of the drivers, to a man, say that this is a much nicer car to drive than the C6R they've raced here since, what, 05, is it? 05, 06. So, they run that car, developed it massively through the years and did slightly different configurations as well. But this new car is a treat to drive. So it's much more comfortable to drive. The other car is very much on edge. This one, it's easier to be more consistent.
And it should be faster as well. I think they've worked really, really hard on the aero. Yeah, exactly. It wants to be. It wasn't really quite quick enough last year, was it? And I think if they could nail the aero package a bit better, which it looks like they have, then they'll get that really needed extra bit of speed on the straight line, which will hopefully just boost them up.
Yep. Just going back to Porsche for a moment, Jeremy, you mentioned about, Liz said there's a lot more to come for them probably. Everyone who was here for the test day said they were certain they were sandbagging.
Yeah, I don't know whether they're sandbagging or not. I mean, it's
I think they're just learning.
Exactly. I think you're absolutely right.
Let's not peak too early.
I'm sure you're right. That they haven't shown the ultimate potential of the car yet, Mark. I'm sure you're right there. But it is very early in this car's gestation period, and it is such new technology and such a radical package compared to anything we've seen in the past that there is an awful lot to learn. And the car first hit the track towards the end of last year, so they've done a fair amount of work on the car, and they've had to redevelop several systems that they originally anticipated using on the car, but they're making progress, I think, all the time.
Mark Webber's helmet then, you just see that sticking out there, and I wonder how Mark feels after last weekend, seeing his young upstart from Australia, Daniel Ricciardo, winning the Canadian Grand Prix in his car.
Oh, I don't know, Mark's a pretty cool customer. Yeah. I think he'll just brush it off and say, well, hey, I'm driving this at Le Mans, so he'll...
And I'm going to win it.
Well, yeah, he'd love to. I'm sure he would. Obviously, his last 2 trips to Le Mans haven't been the most successful journeys, so I would wish for him that they could come to the end of this race. It would be really great.
New name again. Well, not a new name, but Anthony Davidson back to the top of the charts. At 3 minutes 23 now, 0.897 for Anthony Davidson. 15 laps that car has completed. Car number 8 in the Toyota Racing Toyota TS040 hybrid car, and that is turned most laps and also the fastest one for Anthony Davidson.
I think we're going to see a sub 320s qualifying this year. I'm throwing that out there because personally, the fact they're doing that now, and I frankly don't think they're pushing as hard as they can. Well, I think we're easy going to see it 318 maybe.
Yeah, well, Anti's only 0.8 of a second off after the best test day time now, so and that's also the gap he's got over Loic Duval. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment here live from Le Mans in free practice for the world's greatest race. Welcome back to Eurosport. We're live here for free practice at Le Mans. 4 hours of this free practice, and we're now almost, we're just over 1 hour into that. Another 3 hours to go, and then tonight the first of the qualifying sessions, the all-important qualifying sessions. And with us here this afternoon, David Ingram from Audi UK. David, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Audi has only lost Le Mans twice in the whole of this century, so I mean, you've got a huge record here.
Yeah, it's been quite an event, hasn't it? I mean, from coming in 99, I mean, from my point of view, to a race that I love. It was just fantastic that I could come here almost on business without having to be out into the campsites all the time.
So you must be very proud of all your cars and drivers, and most particularly Alan McNish, of
Yeah,
course.
I mean, he's a fantastic job for us on the track and off. You know, he's such a great ambassador for Audi, a great ambassador for the sport, I think, and such a great guy to work with.
And you're keeping him busy this weekend as well, huh?
Crikey. I mean, looking at his diary, I think he's busier than when he was driving.
Now, David, you've been with Audi for many years, but you haven't always been here as Audi, have you? I mean, you've been here as doing all sorts of things, refueling, and tell us all about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always had an affection for endurance events. I joined Audi in '78, and in 1980 we launched the Quattro and started rallying, and rallying appealed to me enormously again because it was an endurance event. And my first rally was 1981, the RAC rally, and what an experience that was. Through the night, I think 2 overnight rests in 5 days.
Different nowadays, isn't it?
Just a bit. But I came to Le Mans 1982, so the first year of the 956s. Came with Page and Moy, as many people do, and I was completely besotted with the event, and I knew that that was going to start an annual event for me, but it was made easier through knowing Richard Lloyd. I got to know Richard through the British Saloon Car Championship when he ran the Audi 80s, 1980-81, and he became a very good mate of mine. And when he bought a 956 1983, they did Monza, they did the championship, the European Championship at the time, did Monza, and realised they could do with a tall bloke for helping the refuelling. So got back from Monza and asked me if I'd like to join in. I think Silverstone was the next round. So I was on the bottle side. Then we had the fuel going in one side, and then the bottle the other side to let the air out of the tank. So that was my duty for Silverstone, and then on to Le Mans. And that was it. I stayed as part of Richard's team for quite a few years. I just took long weekends off work and continued with him until he decided to do the World Championship, and then I couldn't get all the time off, so he had to have a full-time replacement. But I then went into the campsites and I stayed with that really through to 99 when Audi started. I mean, fantastic, dream come true. And so I've been every year since 99 as part of the Audi setup.
Sadly, you're telling us this will be your last year with Audi.
Well, yes, 36 and a bit years with Audi. It's time to pack it in, I think. So yeah, this could well be my last year as part of the Audi team, but I'll be back in the campsites. My mates are still there.
Because what?
But I mean, there's still a discussion about me coming on, because one of the things I do here for Audi UK is sort out all the ticketing and arrangements, and I think they might be quite keen to keep me on.
I think so. I can't think this is the last time we've seen you. And
what are we looking at here? My goodness.
Oh my Lord.
Goodness gracious me.
Oh dear God.
That is a car number 1, Loic Duval, who was completely destroyed. The car number 1 Audi. We've just seen Anthony Davidson reset fastest lap at a 3 minutes 23.652, and Loic Duval had just gone the fastest sector time, purple sector time in sector 1.
Completed sector 2.
I think he's coming through the Porsche curves. Is that where it was? And the car's gone off the road there, and there was a very strange abutment on the side of the racetrack there, and that Audi has hit that barrier extremely hard. Showing Marshall point 121, which is
that's Maison Blanche. So.
Right in the middle of the Porsche curves. That is a very dramatic. You can see the concern on the.
So as you can see, we've got a red flag, and there is debris on the track as well as the car on the side of the road. 121 is Maison Blanche.
Yeah, it's kind of the sort of.
They've just
the second of the right-handers of the Porsche curves. The first one being right-hand, then kind of a double left, and then a big, long, sweeping right-hander. It looks like he's gone off the road there. So this will be a red flag to the session. This The red flags, as you can see, are shown, and there is the segment of the track where the incident has taken place. Yeah, you can see in the middle of the Porsche curve. So that's a very frightening time here now, I think all we can do at this stage is just run down some of the times that have been set so far. It's Anthony Davidson, fastest of all in car number 8 for Toyota, 3 minutes 23.652, which, as Mark was saying a little while ago, within a second of the fastest lap set here at the test session a couple of weeks ago. Second fastest is car number 1. The time was set by Luca Di Grassi 15-20 minutes ago at a 3 minutes 24.7, but Loic, he was out there flying. He'd just done a couple of laps or so. Last time around was a 3 minutes 27. He'd just gone purple, the fastest extra time of anybody in this session in Sector 1. So he was clearly on a flying lap. Third fastest at the moment is car number 7. That is Stefan Sarrazat in the second of the Toyotas, a 3 minutes 25.4. Then the next two Audis, car number 2, Benoit Trollier, 3 minutes 26.1. Marco Benanommi in car number 3, 3 minutes 26.4. And then the two Porsches, car number 20, Mark Webber, 3 minutes 27.1. We saw that car into the pits a little while ago. A different nose section put on that car. Back out again, improvement for Mark Webber. Mark Lieb in the sister car number 14, a 3 minutes 29.6. And then the two P1L cars, the non-hybrid cars, the new Rebellion R1 chassis. Car number 12, Matthias Besch, 3 minutes 35.3. Dominic Kreimer, the teammate in car number 13, a 3 minutes 36.3.
Yeah, P2 then, Jan Mardenborough still at the top of the pile for Ligier, with Karen Chanduk for Eureka, and there's Martin Howson as well in third place, and Ricky Taylor there driving for the Boat Morgan team in fourth in that P2. Lucas Baddy for Ligier. So a lot of coupes up front there in this, and then in the GT standings,
GT standings, the fastest is car number 71. That was the time that was set a little while ago by James Collado in the number 71 AF Corsa Porsche. Ferrari, beg your pardon. Followed by car number 91, the Porsche of Nick Tandy. Third fastest in GTE Pro, set just a little while ago by Alvaro Parenti in car number 52. That is the Ram Racing Ferrari. So good to see that Ferrari up there. And then the fastest of the GTE AM cars, car number 81. Stephen Wyatt at the wheel of that car lately, but it was Sam Bird in car number 81 who set the time a little while ago. Fifth fastest in the GTE cars, a second of the amateur cars. It's car number 61, Mirko Venturi. That is yet another of the AF Corsa Ferraris, and Mirko Venturi was sharing that car with Marco Chiocchi and Luis Perez Componc. So we can see the one of the race control vehicles going out onto the track. He's got a long way to go around until he reaches the accident scene, but this is certainly going to be a very lengthy process here before we can get the track back into a configuration where we can recommence practice.
Yeah, they're telling people to keep right from, well, they're all gone now, but from
everybody's in now.
Post 117, so obviously whatever happened, the accident went on for a couple of corners. And of course,
post 117 is the beginning of the Porsche curve, so they're saying as you get into the Porsche curves, stay over on the left-hand side. So
yeah, and that Corvette
on the right, rather.
And of course, the Corvette corner's just been improved, enhanced, isn't it, along with Tetra Rouge. So
yeah, quite a lot of resurfacing going on, and as we talked about, in the region down the Mulsanne Straight, new roundabouts and side roads being put in, of course. Lots of tension here in the Audi garage, everybody hoping for some news, and of course, as you've said, I'm sure Loic Duval was on a very, very quick lap indeed, so that was going to be again to put the Audi potentially right on the top of the pile. I mean, we're in the situation now where we're not rehearsing for qualifying, but the cars are really starting to bed themselves in. The track is getting a little bit more rubbered up. It's actually getting a little bit cooler as well, which is going to be very good news for all the cars, because with all this very sophisticated electronics controlling all of their their hybrid systems, they don't want to be overheated either. So it's not just us that aren't responding well to the sweltering heat this afternoon, it's the cars as well.
So an enforced stoppage for the time being during this free practice session, just to give everyone else a chance to check everything out in the cars, and then as soon as we've got more news, we will give it to you about when this session can restart, and also news on Loic Duval.
Well, Marco Holzer never did get back out yet. They are working on the underneath the car, the Porsche you saw that had that drive shaft failure on the first lap out of the pits. I suppose for the Garage 56 entry, Nissan Nismo Motorsport and their Zedric, the opportunity now is that while there is a red flag on, they may be able to recover the car or have the car recovered for them and bring them back, and that might then give them an opportunity. But I think that's probably the furthest thing from their minds and everybody else's at the moment. Full course caution, and just where the number one is there, you can see the yellow patch, and that is the beginning of the caution period. For the debris field from Loic Duval's accident. We're seeing nothing, and in fact the Zedric is back in the garage. You've just seen it being turned in. We're seeing nothing and we're hearing nothing at the moment, and we won't, I'm absolutely certain, until there is confirmed news of Loic's condition. And obviously we're, like everybody else, sitting here with our everything crossed and just bated breath. And for those guys on his team, especially in the Audi garage, this is a very tense time indeed.
Now, something interesting has come up, that marshals have been told they must treat any wrecked car like this with caution because of all these complex hybrid systems. What power there might be, that, you know,
yeah.
Same in Formula One with Kurz that we used to have.
Well, as brilliant Bob from Radio Le Mans always says, it's not electricity's fault, it's just trying to get home. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it is a deadly serious thing. These things have phenomenal charge that can be delivered instantly. I mean, it can give them getting on for 300 horsepower instantly. And so, yeah, you know what it's like if you touch a live wire in your house. Well, that can be multiplied by many factors. In fact, we were talking to one of the Toyota engineers yesterday. We're talking about 500 megajoules that they used last year, not kilojoules that they're using this year. 500 megajoules would shoot a Toyota Aygo 60 meters straight up. That's how they were. I said, what's that in horsepower? I don't know. We were trying to find a way of working out. I said, what is it? Is it going to power a kilometre of Autobahn? Would it power one house? Would it do a kettle? Is it going to power an office block? And I want to know how much that amount of energy is. So we were trying to work it out.
Yep. So how many London buses high is that? That's the other thing. Well, by the way, this pause has allowed them to get the Nissan Ziod back to the garage.
Yeah, we just saw it in the garage. Well, red flag here in the first free practice session at Le Mans. Loic Duval's number one Audi had a big accident in the Porsche curves. You can see Jürgen Bergmeister and the rest of the Porsche guys discussing their issues. The factory Porsche team back in the Premier class for the first time this year. And as ever, the number one rule for everybody is not to worry about your opposition too much, because first of all, you've got to beat the racetrack. And that is here, as much as on the Nordschleife or at Indianapolis, absolutely still very much true. It is all about getting towards the end of the race in a position where you can still fight for it, because this is such a tough track to race on, such a tough track to be consistent and fast and have no accidents and no incidents and no mechanical failures. I mean, a factory Porsche, how long do you think they've spent building up Marco Holzer's factory Porsche? It rolled out and didn't get half a lap before a drive shaft came. I mean, and it's not me and Mark and Jeremy doing it in our garage and having a bit of a go. These guys really know what they're up against. Well, now the speeds from the Toyota are already over 340 kilometers an hour down the straight. The run to Indianapolis, the fastest part of the track. They're now sitting, or they have set a 3-minute 23 lap already. In the test weekend, they were down at 3:20.01, so still already very close to that. Of course, those times were set when the track had a little bit more running than it has had now. We did have heavy rain here. They had heavy rain here on Sunday, had heavy rain here on Monday night in into Tuesday as well. Quite extensive, very stormy weather, and that has made the track, as the drivers would call it, green. Jan Mardenborough's Ligier, the brand new Ligier, its first ever official track session or racing session on top of the P2 class. The GT Pro there, the Ferrari GTE on top, and in the AM class it's not the Chrome Racing Ferrari, it's the 81 Ferrari, which is the fastest in there. So Jeremy Shaw would think that every year that the championship happens, and before the test weekend and since the test weekend, we've seen the balance of performance changing between some of the cars, and then there's always, you know, the manufacturers and the organisers are sort of in this perpetual arm wrestling, aren't they? It's the there's the Loic Duval car. Now, I am going to go a little bit out on a limb, and I'm suggesting the only reason the director is showing us the scene of the accident again is that he has had news that we have not, and I'm hoping that that is good news that we have not had. The fact that there's a cover over the car and the flatbed is coming into position, to me would suggest that there is not a driver in the car, and that would also, to me, suggest that the doctors are happy to A, extract, and B, move him. Now, we have not, I stress this, we have not had any official news, but now, actually, that shot of the car is a very much brighter looking shot of the car than from behind. Frankly, behind the firewall, I don't care what's happened to the rest of it. That's merely machinery. The fact that the front end of the car, we can see the headlights there, we can see the screen intact, we can see the entire roof structure. The entire roof structure is an enormous roll cage. The fact that the doors and the windscreen are hung off it is kind of secondary. It is entirely about the driver's survival cell. That's what the whole of that roof and structure is all about, and it is very, very significant in the minds of the Audi engineers that that is a survival cell first and foremost, and its performance thereafter is entirely secondary. And you can take it as read that in all of these closed coupes, then that is very, you know, right on the top of the design criteria, and you've got to have visibility. Is that Ian Bamsey? No, it's Ian Bamsey down there in the check shirt. Yeah, it was. No. I was.
Don't think so.
Anyway,
we claim to look like Ian Bamsey.
A clone of Ian Bamsey.
I was just wondering, you can see that there is the rear end of the car, and extensively damaged there, certainly, and it looked. Whether there's any tub damage or not, I don't know, but clearly that was just a massive accident. And I was just asking David Ingham, whether he knows whether they do have a spare chassis here. I'm not actually sure that, because that might well be required, and if it is, then they've certainly got time to get one here if indeed it is needed. Well, we see the ambulance. The
ambulance and the medical car, and again, that's very significant, is the doctor is with the ambulance and is with Loic Duval, so we will have everything crossed there. Coming back in through the Ford chicane in front of us, down to the pit lane, and then he will head to the medical centre. The extraction car was on site as well, but again, as I say, historically, the way that these things work, if they are taking the car away, then that means they have already extracted the driver and he is getting the best possible attention. You can see Ollie Jarvis and Felipe Albuquerque and the rest of the guys there. This is a really heart in your mouth moment for everybody, isn't it? Last year's terrible accident for Alan Simonsen is not far from anybody's memory. Least of all the hordes and hordes of Danish fans who have come down here, and his teammates from last year, of course, back here racing as well in an Aston Martin with another all-Danish lineup, and they really believe that this race owes them something. There's definitely a lot of clear-up operation going on. There seems to be quite a lot of debris in the fencing. Now, I'm not sure whether that was just the angle of the shot, but it looks as though the end of the accident may well have been the Audi going backwards into the fence just above where all those marshals are working, and then dropping down onto the road. And actually, probably one of the better things for the extraction crew is it came down on its belly rather than at any other angle.
Yeah, that's, as you say, Porsche curves, and that's where they did a lot of work over the last few months at what they call Corvette corners, which is part of the Porsche curves, and also a lot at Tertre Rouge, where they've moved the fences well clear of the poplars on the M138, which is where Alan Simonsen went off. Also, as Martin mentioned earlier, running code 60 this year, which is any yellow flag area. Rather than get the 3 separate safety cars out, you can just isolate part of the track, and you can run cars at 60 kilometers an hour until they're clear of that zone. So there's the Corvettes then at the moment, parked up, and just garage doors coming down as people get to work in there. Just probably keep the sun out at the moment. It's got very hot again here.
I feel that might have been the number 1 Audi garage door coming down. It was a very quick glimpse of it. Just upstream of Corvette is where Audi is, and that is exactly what has happened. So again, Mark, you know, historically the rules are that you were not allowed to use a chassis other than the one in which you had scrutineered. How much that applies now, I'm not sure, given that this is not qualifying, this is a free practice session. I don't know quite what the situation would be. Were there a spare chassis? Were the team fit and ready to go with 3 drivers? I don't know. And again, that is something that probably we will not discover until at least tomorrow.
We saw it last year with Krohn, when Tracy Krohn went off big time down at La Chapelle, and they bought another car from Italy, and that was in qualifying, not free practice.
Well, that's a very good point.
Yeah, and that car eventually got to run and didn't finish, unfortunately, but that cost Tracy a whole bundle of aviation money, didn't it?
Sure did. And I think the bottom line is it is an option to proceed, but at the moment I think we're all just in a bit of a holding pattern to see where we are and how the driver is, most importantly, and then I think we'll get a bit more information released.
So that's the view more or less from our commentary box, looking across the track to the...
Which commentary box are you in? That's the view down the straight.
I was going to say our boxes are down there on the left, and we're looking across to the big wheel, the Ferris wheel there. So what we can see this year, and we're upstairs this year, which is even better, so we can get a really good view of people coming into the pit entry road. And so... just got the sweepers out now. A lot of debris from this, so obviously at that speed, Liz, these accidents gone for a long way, don't they?
I mean, that was an incredible hit. You can see how much damage to the barrier there's been. I think this will be quite a long red flag. It's really important that all of these marshals who work so hard repair the barrier efficiently and correctly so that there's safety for the next drivers, as I'm sure everybody can understand. And you can just see there how hot it is. I think the driver just getting a bit of fan, and it's a very warm day here in Le Mans.
Kazuki Nakajima in the car, and like everybody else, waiting news. When we get the green light, we should get a short warning beforehand. They may give us a 15-minute warning that we're about to go green, and then hopefully we will have that information for you. Anthony Davidson for Toyota, the fastest man. Loic Duval's number 1 Audi crashed out when he was on a quicker lap, quicker than certainly than his, and substantially faster in the first sector than Davidson's best lap up until that stage. Stefan Sarazan third for Toyota, Benoit Trellier 4th quickest for Audi, and Marco Bononomi 5th quickest for Audi as well. Porsche behind them, 6th and 7th, Mark Webber and Mark Lieb were in the cars at the time of the red flag. Matthias Besch and Dodo Kreiheimer in the Rebellions. They are the P1 cars. Well, we're going to take a quick pause. We're not going to take a quick pause. We are... I believe we may be about to get some information. I'm not entirely sure. We were just about to go into a break, and they have just told us to stand by, so it's possible that there may be some official information coming. However, work continues apace. See all the big shrouding there. This is very familiar Formula One practice, isn't it? You think, okay, the very last thing you need to do is shroud the brakes, but in fact that's the very best way of guaranteeing the heat that these enormous recovery systems generate will be controlled, and the airflow will be controlled in the best possible manner. These things are unbelievably sophisticated, and to think that, you know, we're talking about it now in sort of man on the moon overawed terms of technology we don't understand. These things are going to be on road cars in 5 years, giving us, well, what is, I've got to work this out, what is 6.16 litres per kilometre in miles per gallon, because Audi have calculated...
Oh, wow, I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, Audi's engineers have calculated that if the race goes relatively safety car free, as it did in 2012, to the same distance roughly, in that distance, to meet the restrictions on fuel, they will have to drive every lap at 6.16 litres per kilometre more economy than previously was the case. Now, a decent road car, 14 litres per 100 kilometres is very good fuel consumption. So it's going to end up being something like, I don't know, 15 miles per gallon more economical, which in a racing car, I mean, never mind in a road car, conservatively, in a race car that's been whaled to within an inch of its life, that's going to be a remarkable achievement. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. I may do some maths while we're away. Don't you dare leave. Welcome back to Eurosport's live coverage of the 2014 Le Mans 24 Hours. We're under red flag at the moment following an incident in the Porsche curves. The second quickest car up to date in the free practice, the number 1 Audi of Loic Duval, has had an accident, and we are waiting for news on the condition of the driver.
Yeah, and we're also hearing the session may not resume because of the amount of damage to the fence behind the scene of the accident. There's debris on both sides of the wall, as you noticed earlier, Martin. So we'll just have to watch that one. So maybe there'll be no more running until official qualifying starts at, where are we, 10 o'clock, is it?
Yes, and that'll make things very tricky for a lot of teams that were desperate to get some running in and get some practice with their cars. Some of these drivers are rookies. You know, a lot of these drivers have not had much experience here. And certainly for Porsche, it's going to be very tricky. They're not going to get that setup time they'd hoped for before qualifying. Yeah,
we're now saying it may restart, but it may be just moved a couple of hours, so the brake will be changed. Martin, before that, we were just talking about all the fuel variations, and this is such a complex juggling operation, because it's not just the fuel they use, it's the amount of hybrid power they use as well, what the megajoules you can use each lap. Basically, the equivalent fuel per lap in litres now allowed to Toyota and Porsche is 4.8 litres a lap, so they've got to do a lap on 4.8 litres. Audi are allowed 3.95, call it 4 litres a lap. And Paul Truswell of dailysportscar.com, he did all the figures prior to the race, and he reckons Toyota and Porsche should be able to comfortably run 14 laps in a stint, whereas Audi will only be able to complete 13 laps.
Wow, and over 24 hours, that could really make a huge difference between winning and losing, actually.
Now, the Audi guys have said that they will, if the race runs to the same distance as last year, they will be doing 6.16 litres per 100 kilometres better economy. That's 38 miles per gallon better economy than what they've done before. That's not a total. That's an improvement of 38 miles per gallon more fuel. What were they doing before? Even if they were doing 100 to do 38, you know, if they were doing 100 mpg to do 38 more, that's 40% more economical. That's insane.
Yeah, the ACO were a little bit over-optimistic when they said they were going to reduce fuel consumption by 30%. In fact,
they weren't.
The test days showed it's going to be something like 22, 23%, but that's their target. But again, Liz, we heard their target was for the pole position laps in the future, never to be below 3:30. Look what happened.
Oh, I think this is amazing. This is the future of motorsport. I think it's a really big message to manufacturers, to everybody, that they're making an effort to have less fuel consumption. I think that's a big step into what we all hope the future of motorsport will be, because it means that we can still enjoy a sport that everybody loves without, you know, damaging the planet as much, which frankly is a pretty special amount at the moment.
And again, we talked about, you know, the highly sophisticated systems they got in these cars, and they will come in. You know, this is why Audi races these things. That's why they race diesel engines, to prove primarily to the North American market and also others that a diesel engine does not mean a smoky, rattly old thing that is just a, you know, appalling thing to own. You can put it in a car and it will drive like a sports car, and it will go out and win Le Mans. So it's got reliability, it's got economy, and it's got the sporting ability. And their road cars now, you know, are absolutely full of those kind of engines. And this technology, Audi, Porsche, and not just the cars that are racing here, you know, Mercedes and all the other premium brands, will be bringing in this kind of technology. We now are quite impressed if we've got a road car that'll do 45 or 50 miles per gallon. our kids, when they are driving in 10 or 15 years, will be looking at 3 figures miles per gallon of economy because of all of this new technology. And in the same way, I don't know how my mobile phone works. I don't know how my iPad works. I just know that they do a fantastic job. And so what's under the skin? And even here, there are different ways of skinning a cat, and each of the 3 manufacturers come out with a different way of balancing fuel, different fuel, you know, petrol or diesel, different size engines, different amounts of hybrid recovery and so on. But in the end, we get right back to where this started. 1, for the manufacturers to prove that this technology is safe and sensible for road car buyers to go out and buy, and 2, the first guy to get to the checkered flag did it better. Whether their mechanical solution is better or not, we've always had different engines, Mark, different bodies, different tyres, right from the very first race. And we still have. But again, we still get down to, no matter what's under the bonnet, no matter what the driver's controlling, it's team and driver that are going to get to the checkered flag first. And that's you know, the overriding thing here. Still...
But don't forget, we've had the Toyota Prius with us for years. That's a hybrid, and what we're doing now, Liz, is we're seeing how you harness other methods of power. I mean, Porsche are very cleverly using their exhaust gases to build up on this power, so that's already better for the environment.
And the difference between what we're seeing here and a Prius, this is a whole lot cooler. So I think I speak for a lot of people there.
This is like, almost 10 years down the road.
Well, this is what I'm saying, is what's exciting is, yes, we all want to have hybrid technology and do our bit for the planet and be heading the right direction, but we don't all really want to drive a Prius. And I suppose, you know, even my car, I drive an Audi A5, and it has that little bit of hybrid technology in it, and I think that's become a commonplace now. But I think we're taking that next step to say, if 24-hour racing can embrace it, then we're seeing the real future in that you can still have a super cool car in the future with really quality hybrid technology.
And that's what motorsport does for all manufacturers, isn't it? It helps them really rattle through, really force through technology that otherwise in normal road development would take years and years and years and years and years. But also, it sexes it up. I mean, that's what motorsport, you know, honestly, that is what motorsport is all about. It's about making your brand sexy. It's about making the cars attractive to the consumers, attractive to the buyers. And, you know, Le Mans is one of the great races for doing that. It is still one of the 3 names that if you stop a man in a street and ask him to name some motor races, you're going to get Le Mans, going to get the Monaco Grand Prix, possibly Indianapolis, or maybe their local Grand Prix if they're a motorsport fan. But most men in the street will know about Monaco and they'll know about Le Mans. And of the 2, only one of them really advances motoring in any way, shape or form. And it has always been Le Mans. It was created to advance motoring for motorists, and still it does.
And I have this discussion in my local pub, you know, I have to keep reminding people that sports car racing is so far ahead of Formula One in developing all these new technologies. Okay, it's probably easier to do because the cars are bigger, they're different, they're not built to the same little narrow single-seater body, and get the engines as small as possible. Well, that's coming here. We've seen with Porsche, I mean, a 2-litre V6, what's a V4? What's this? Goodness. That is tiny. But
yeah, I mean, we're seeing a glimpse, aren't we? We're seeing a glimpse into the future of what will hopefully make its way into road car technology. And I think I commend everyone for that. I think we have to do that in today's day and age. Something has to be done. We can't carry on just sucking fuel like we used to.
Liz, you're still racing. How do you feel about racing just a pure electric car like Formula E?
Depends how fast it was.
Depends what they're paying.
But you haven't said the other thing, of course.
It depends how long it'll last. If I'm only doing 1 lap, because that's as far as it'll go.
But you haven't said the other thing, and how much noise it makes. Isn't this one of the big attractions?
That was next in line, yeah.
Well, now
how weird is that?
You see, now, again, we're looking at 2 different ways of skinning a cat here. We're looking at manufacturers coming to Le Mans and proving technology on one stage, and then Formula E is looking at trying to prove electric technology another way. In my mind, if I were a manufacturer looking to try and boost confidence of the public in hybrids and electric cars and so on, having to change cars halfway through a 35-minute or 40-minute race isn't shouting, this is what you need in your road car. A car that'll do 260 miles an hour or 200 and odd miles an hour for 24 hours with hybrid technology. That's saying your trip to the shops is going to be a success because these guys make it so. And you know, I'm biased because I've been coming here since Job was a boy, and I love this. And Formula E has yet to prove itself as a racing category. So, you know, I'm going with what I know because that's what the human condition is. You go with what you know.
Lena Gade there, we just saw a glimpse of her, of course, engineer for the #1 car. So
we're having conversations now about what is, what isn't, what might and might not be. We are still waiting for news of Loic Duval, whose car crashed in the Porsche curves. And again, as you said a little earlier, Mark Cole, it is vital, obviously, not just that his car is moved and he is taken to somewhere where he can be looked after very comprehensively, but also, you know, the cogent fact is if somebody has had a crash there, it is possible that somebody else might have a crash there. It's unlikely, perhaps, depending on where the accident happens, but what you must make sure is that the safety barriers that are in place, which are for the protection of the driver and the fans predominantly, are back where they were. Now it's all concrete walls lining there, and the one thing we know that is if you shift concrete, it takes a lot of shifting back. Now it looks as though nothing much has moved, but that debris fencing,
the catch fence is gone.
Yeah, to my mind, the car was airborne in there backwards, which is why the back of the car is so shredded.
And thank goodness we have the catch
down
fence
on its belly. Well, I mean, it's exactly for that reason.
Well, not unlike Alan McNish's accident, of course, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Coming out of Dunlop.
There is the first man who will get news. I can't lip read his German, I'm afraid. So, however,
that looked promising.
Yes.
What he just said.
He's not hard to read. David Ingram from Audi UK is sitting behind us. He's not a hard man to read, Wolfgang Ullrich. When he's happy, he's happy. When he's not, he's not. That was him going to the pit wall, and I think he might have something very positive to tell Lena Gade. Certainly that would be my hope.
Well, we can still see work going on there. It's a good opportunity for us to, you know, give a bit of a big up to all the marshals here. They work so hard. They are volunteers in pretty much all of motorsport, and I think they really deserve a lot more than they get. I think it's our chance to sort of say, you know, look at what they do for us. This sport wouldn't exist without the marshals and the volunteers that help.
Yeah, absolutely. They come from all over France. They come across from the US. They come from the UK. So just like to say hello to all of them and thank you so much. They are unpaid volunteers. It is their time. And what they trade in a good view of what they love is sometimes very dangerous, very difficult, very arduous. I mean, this is going to be a hot as hell weekend for them. It's going to be a long, tough weekend. You saw Dr. Ullrich being interviewed down there in the pit road, and that will be by the Circuit TV. And I believe if he's going to talk to them and looks that relaxed, that he has had good news, and that can only be very relieving for everybody concerned, I think.
We certainly hope so. Obviously, as soon as we know some real information, we will pass it on your way, but we're hoping that little bit of a nod, it looked like he said, okay, and it sort of nodded. We're hoping that's what we saw anyway, which would be very good news.
Well, it's not just us here, it's not just you at home. Obviously, in the modern age, this race is being broadcast across the globe, and there are an awful lot of people waiting to hear some good news.
Yeah, we know some of you are listening in Singapore and Australia, because I've spoken to you in the last week. So Tim Parsons and family, I hope you're enjoying all our coverage, and Timothy's coming over next week for the christening of their second child. So
now might be a good opportunity for any of you listening to us that want to ask any questions on Twitter or on Facebook. I don't know if Martin's on Facebook as well. Probably he's on everything. He's got the computer in front. Okay, just
Facebook.
Twitter. Oh yes,
Facebook. Yesterday.
Oh, I know, you're right. It's because Martin's tweeting about every 30 seconds, so he wouldn't have time for any other form of social media.
No, that's absolutely not true.
But if you have
I'm all over MySpace.
Oh, jeez. Wow. No comment.
Yeah, there you go.
It is at Martin Haven and at Liz Halliday. Very uninventive, but easy to remember. So feel free. And then we have Mr. Twitterless next to us, who still refuses to join the modern age of
That was a James Brown song, wasn't it? They call him Mr. Twitterless. Hey, that's one for the old audience there. Liz is laughing. She doesn't even know the song. She has no idea.
No, I'm laughing anyway.
They call him Mr. Pitiful. Well, you can see everybody now just sitting waiting for news about Loïc Duval and also about whether or not the session will be restarted. The major issue there is to rebuild that safety fencing. It is to protect the drivers. It's a red zone for fans. You can't get alongside the Porsche curves at that stage. But we are waiting for news. I just heard a little something. We're having wipes and sweeties going on here. So Loïc Duval is talking, according to Wolfgang Ullrich, and so he is conscious, he is talking, and that is what everybody wanted to hear. So we'll get David Ingram to put the headset on and have a little chat with us, because he's been listening into the news on Radio Le Mans. Yeah, sitting alongside us here in the next one of our portable cabins. If you want to imagine our cabin, think of all those war films where escaping prisoners were put in a square metal box in the middle of the parade ground. That's what ours is like. So, David, tough time for the team, and it does look as though there is good news on the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, we've been through a few of these over the years, and fortunately, all turned out okay in the end.
Yeah,
but it's a scary moment. I mean, it's terrifying to see, but blimey, with the sort of impact that modern race cars can absorb. As everybody said before, they shed all the bits outside of the driver cabin area, and that absorbs a lot of the energy.
And in the end, it is just bits. It's not like when you tell your mum you've crashed her car. That's very different. She's furious. Yeah, she's furious. Of course, she's glad in the end that you've survived, but she's furious. Now, a lot of people have been asking about replacement chassis. Now, after Silverstone, was there a new chassis used for Spa? Yeah. But now, obviously, that's one weekend to one weekend, and we're not entirely sure if there is a spare chassis available at Jost or not.
Well, I'm not sure about the regulations. Do you have to complete with the chassis that you started? I mean, if the tub's okay, then everything else you can put new on outside it. But if the tub isn't okay, I'm not sure what the regulations are.
Well, again, Tracy Crone wrote off a Ferrari in practice last year, and they shipped one in from Maranello. So there is precedent. Again, as we know, every year we come here, we find a whole new rota of rules, don't we? Roads that led somewhere never do, and barriers that you've come through since 1983 are suddenly close to you. So, the field moves, and I'm sure the team will be very up to speed on that.
And if it's possible that they'll put one together, and they're a well-oiled machine, and they've done this before.
Well, of course, there are a couple of old lags.
Team to get it done, is there?
There are a couple of old lags hanging around who might have had a Le Mans win or two to their name. So, I mean, with all seriousness, obviously part of the issue is that Loïc's had a very big incident, and if he has been concussed at any stage, then there's going to be at least a time delay before he can get back in the car, and that might raise issues with getting qualified. And I'm sure the very first thing, if there are no injuries, that the Audi doctors are going to look at is exactly in what kind of fitness he is and how he feels, and that might be again a 24-hour period for him to.
So it's wait and see time on many issues at the moment.
Okay, well, we're being told that the estimated session restart time will be 5:55 local. It is now 5:46, so 9 minutes from now. And that then means that they won't be able to completely repair those or replace those fences. That might be something that happens a little later. That might have to happen during the day tomorrow. We'll continue with our 4-hour session, of which just over 2 hours will remain when we go green once more. Then there's a 2-hour gap before the Le Mans cars are back on track, but in that 2-hour gap there will be a 1-hour practice session for the French Carrera Cup support race on Saturday morning. We will take a quick pause and be back. Welcome back live to Le Mans on Eurosport 2, the beginning of our extensive coverage of this year's 24 hours. And as you can see from the pictures on your screen, the session should restart in around 7 minutes from now. So the news that we have had from Audi, although we haven't got a pit reporter down in the garages in this session, is that Loic Duval was conscious and talking when the rescue crews were extracting him from the #1 Audi. He crashed, if those of you who have just joined, heavily in the Porsche curves, and the car to all intents and purposes is from the passenger compartment back a write-off. That's not necessarily to say that it cannot be rebuilt. It entirely depends on the state of the passenger tub, but more importantly than anything else, it has done exactly what it was designed to do, which is keep the most important component in one piece, and that is the frangible object behind the steering wheel. So the driver's survival cell has ticked all the boxes in its name and done exactly what it was supposed to do. And in the end, nothing else pretty much matters. What we then have, of course, is we've lost about 35 minutes probably of our 4-hour session, so everybody will now have to try and get themselves back on track and get things back up to speed. Martin Haven, Liz Halliday and Audi UK's David Ingram upstairs in the booth as engines are about to be fired up to go back out on track. And Liz, this is always a tense waiting period, but now that everybody has heard that the session is going to be restarted, I'm sure the word has spread like wildfire down the pit lane. And Dr. Ulrich said that Loic is alive, speaking, breathing and everything else. Whether he's got any other injuries remains to be seen, but that's that massive relief, and so suddenly the tension goes and everybody is now probably almost elated to be able to go back on track with good news.
Yeah, it will be a huge sigh of relief, especially after the horrible tragedy of last year. I think that's still very fresh in everybody's mind, sadly, and I think that's the last thing we ever want to see on a racetrack, is a fellow competitor injured or in a race car and to have no information. So I think it's very, very good news that he was speaking to Dr. Ulrich himself, and we hope that really he's just a bit sore from the incredible impact he must have suffered. I mean, we saw the catch fence. He's been up in the air at pretty decent height, it looks like, so hopefully he's just shaken and a bit sore, and we'll just have to keep all our fingers crossed that we'll see all 3 drivers in a race car in a new chassis on race day, well, in qualifying, hopefully.
Hankey's visible in shot. I have to say I'm not entirely surprised at all. But David, it's you know, if we assume or if we surmise that the car may not take part, immediately it robs the team of a third of all its program leading up to the race. They will all have been working on doing, to a degree, some of the same stuff, but to a degree as well, different things, different setups on different cars to pool the information and try and, again, like we talked about motoring, hurry up the learning process. And so suddenly you've got less that you can get through, and they're going to have a bit of an emergency brief to figure out what's most important that the one car would have done that they now need to put onto 2 or 3.
Yeah, and plan B time, you know, and I think the experience that we've had at Le Mans over the years is that anything's possible, and you just have to be prepared to be flexible, and that's happened many times in the past, and in 2011 with Alan's crash and Rocky's crash, you know, again, fortunately both drivers stepping out of the car, left down to 1 in a very, very close fight with Peugeot, and you know, you just adapt the strategy to suit what you have at the time.
Quite remarkable that that car was left on its own with half the race and still held off the mighty Peugeot. So remarkable of Toyota. So yes, you know,
sometimes it makes you dig deeper, I think.
Exactly.
Well, and we saw the year when Ferrari won, and they nearly destroyed the car in practice, and they went out and they won. It was a fairy tale win there. And I think that I think sometimes it just gives you that fight to dig even deeper.
And you know, in a way that the engineers love the challenge. You know, they like coping with difficult bits. I mean, you know, if it's a straightforward race, then you know, there's no real challenge for them. So if they have something really to change direction in, then you know, it keeps them busy.
I thought they had enough with the technology, but apparently no. David says no, they needed more of a challenge. Well, we are going to, I gather, hear fairly shortly from Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich, the head of Audi Sport. So that will be good news to see him smiling, and with good news to to deliver. So that's exactly what we're all hoping and praying for.
And I'm going to love you and leave you because I have to go to a meeting, and I will see everyone from pit lane a little bit later on.
Absolutely, we look forward to that. So Liz Halliday, just to reiterate, and we'll turn it off for you, definitely everybody, reiterate, is going to be one of our pit lane reporters. She and Sebastian Tiffert will be working down there. And so now cars, David getting ready to get back out on track, which should happen in, again, just about a minute or so. And so we kind of reset and start again, and you know, like Audi, everybody now has got an interrupted testing program, and so they need to get on with it.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, you have a 4-hour free practice, and time goes so quickly. Of course, lose some of that valuable time, and you know, you lose the program.
Absolutely right. So drivers are back in the cars, engines are being fired up, and we are getting ready to go green here again at Le Mans after an extended red flag period of around 30 minutes. So just for those of you who may or may not be joining, I know a lot of people will possibly have picked up the news on Twitter or through the internet, but the good news is that Audi have confirmed that driver of the #1 car, Loic Duval, is conscious and talking and in the very best of medical hands after his big accident. Getting ready to go green here at Le Mans, one of the town's most famous residents, Nick Minassian, getting ready to go out in his SMP sponsored prototype as the pit exit road fills up. And at 5:55, the green light comes on at the end of the pit road. We've got 2 hours and 5 minutes and counting in our 4-hour free practice session. Martin Haven, Mark Cole and Audi UK's David Ingram in the booth. Cars back out on track, and Mark, again, overriding in everybody's minds now that we've had the good news concerning Loic Duval will be to get on with the programme, to try, again, you know, and identify the things that are absolutely critical to get through, and get through those, and then do the next, sort of the plan B ones a little bit further down the list.
Yeah, well, of course, what everyone's asking in the pit lane, David, what I've just come back from, is, OK, you have a new chassis, but if Loic isn't past fit to drive, does that mean that it's going to be a two-hander?
Yeah,
because you can't pull in your reserve driver at this point, presumably.
No. Well, you know, lots of questions to be answered, and I think, you know, it's all going on now. Obviously, the main focus is on making sure that Loic is okay, but then is he going to be fit to drive, and then what about the car? And you know, so there's going to be a lot of work on that, all those subjects, to see where this race takes us next.
Yep. So Herbert, while I've been off, have you been looking at the correlation between racing and road cars? Or haven't you got to that point?
No, we haven't got to that point particularly.
While you're here, you heard what we were talking about earlier about the development and the speed of the development and the scale of it on these type of hybrid cars. How soon is that, what we're seeing here today, going to be transferred to the road with Audi, for instance?
Well, I think hybrid road cars are you know, with us now, but they're at a very early stage of their development, and the hybrid systems we've got here have been developed specifically for the task of motor racing. Now, you know, the hybrid systems will give a great amount of extra power for a very short period of time. What you need in a road car is less of an addition of power, but for a longer time, so that you can do city driving, for example, on electric power, so that you're not burning fossil fuels, and then you get out of the city environment, and then you're back onto fossil fuels and recharging the battery, or whatever sort of hybrid system you have.
There will be a direct correlation, just as the original disc brakes got into road cars.
Integration of systems more than anything.
Good. Well, David, while you're here, we're just going to hear from the boss in a minute. Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich is down in the pits, and we're just going to hear an update on presumably about Loic Duval and what your plans are with the #1 car, which of course is your defending championship car.
Yeah, indeed it is.
Let's go down to the pits then, and we will hear directly from him.
Dr. Ulrich, can you give us an update on the condition of Loic Duval?
Yeah, I hope that's really good news, because El Megnish is with him in the medical center. he's talking to him. So we hope that there is nothing big happen to him, but we will bring him to the hospital for a complete check. After an accident like this, you know, it's always to have to be very careful, and this is the most important stuff. The good thing is, El is with him and can talk to him, and we hope that nothing big has happened to him.
Do you already know what could have caused? I know it's a bit early, but we saw the fence down, so the car was probably airborne.
I think we have no data yet because the data are in the car. If we have data, we can look into that. We can see more. And the pictures that we have seen, you have seen, so nobody could see what really happened.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we are getting reports from people who saw the accident, said the car took off and went roof first into the catch fencing. So
yeah, looking at the pictures of the aftermath, that's extremely plausible.
Yeah. And certainly the rear end of the car was very heavily damaged. The front end didn't look to be so. So yes, it certainly went in, if not upside down, then definitely backwards. So and again, you know, that's to a degree possibly part of what has really helped preserve the driver's cell as well, because the more bits you knock off and drag off into catch fencing, then the better it is. The less energy is still to be imparted into the accident.
Well, David, let's hope you do have 3 cars making the start, and with however many drivers. But of course, this is the big plan this year, wasn't it? 3 cars against Toyota's 2, Porsche's 2. Now, was the intention always that one of those cars was going to be the Hare?
I think having 3 cars always gives you an advantage over having 2, and you know, it's an extra bit of security maybe. You can run different strategies. It just gives you more options, and you know, if we're denied that opportunity, then we're back to the same as our prime competitors.
Now, just going back to the road car technology for the moment, you were talking about the hybrid systems on future Audis. What else might come out of this? I mean, recovery of exhaust gases, for instance?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, in the same way as this is all about reduction of using energy, so you reduce the amount of energy you're having to use from fossil fuels, so you're making the car more efficient, basically. The race cars here are designed to be more efficient than they have been in the past, and that's exactly the same sort of aims for the road, and it's just finding the right application for the road using some of the systems integration and technology that you're developing on the racetrack. And that's something that we've been doing throughout our motorsport program, proving the technology on the track, which will then come into road cars.
Well, David, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm sorry about the timing of it all. Couldn't have been worse. But
I probably won't come back anymore.
Well, no, I was going to say, please do come back, and we want you to come back with an even bigger smile on your face now that we know that Loic Duval's good. So, David, all the best in your whatever you do in the future. But
thank you, Mark.
Do come back and see us. We're on for another 40 hours. Yeah.
I will be back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Martin, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back with action live from Le Mans. You're live on Eurosport. This is Le Mans. This is the 4-hour free practice session prior to the first night of qualifying here for the world's greatest race. We're on board the number 7 Toyota as Nakajima is trying to depose Nick Lapierre, his teammate, from the provisional fastest lap at the moment. Won't be pole in this session. This is just purely practice, and the times won't count until tonight. I'm Mark Cole. With me is Martin Haven. And Martin, if you're just joining us, you will have seen we've had a very traumatic first hour stoppage after Loic Duval had the mother and father of an accident at Porsche Curb. And as one always says, if you're going to go off anyone on this circuit, don't do it at Porsche Curbs.
Well, this is an old-fashioned racetrack, isn't it? Jeremy Shaw and I were sort of by accident actually looking for dinner last night, driving around the circuit. And we drove around from down at the Mulsanne and around Mulsanne Corner, Indianapolis Arnage and so on. And driving down here towards the Porsche Curves, the track is actually just a 2-lane public highway with a flat grass runoff area on either side of it. And we were saying how much wider it is when you don't turn right into the Porsche Curves as the modern cars do. move. You then go down towards what used to be Maison Blanche, White House, in the old section of the track that used to come straight in here onto the pit straight. And it is so narrow, it's half as wide, and with banks on the side of it and a little ditch. And so even the public road part of this old track is much safer than it is. But it is an old track. It is like Brands Hatch. It is like Monza. It is like Hockenheim. It's got less runoff area than a modern Grand Prix circuit. So there aren't many places here, and especially because of the speed, where you want to go off, if you like. But yeah, definitely the Porsche Curves is very high up on everybody's list of places that is potentially very dangerous. And we talked about Alan McNish's accident 2 years ago. It was down here, wasn't he? Made contact just about right there with the back marker, and the car flew in a place where nobody really has accidents. And again, Rocky's accident was in a place where nobody really has accidents because of traffic. Because of traffic, things happen here that don't happen elsewhere. Exiting Tertre Rouge here onto the Mulsanne straight. You can see the cars right in the curves. Ford chicane here in the second element of it. There is on the inside just there a very high red strip which is going to take the floor off a car if they straddle it. That's new for this year, and the track is changing all the time. It evolves all the time, and so yeah, there are more challenges for the drivers. In the garage, the number 20 Porsche Timo Bernhard, and the Porsches concerning themselves with cooling, especially here. They've got the smallest capacity engine, Mark, which means they're then getting the most supplementary energy, if you like, to balance out the equation. And of course that comes at the expense of heat. All energy comes at the expense of heat somewhere or other, and they're trying to recycle some of the heat from the exhaust gases, from the turbo and so on, to generate or to convert it back into kinetic energy. And so their car, perhaps more than the others, is going to be susceptible to very high temperatures. Yep. Talking to some of the engineers, air temperature's got to be really in the mid to high 30s for it to be too much of an issue, we believe. And that's, I haven't spoken to a Porsche engineer, but certainly the other engineers believe, having looked at sort of various different ways of doing this, that it's not until we get into the 30s that things might become an issue. Yeah,
and it's quite possible we'll be in the 30s. It was 28 earlier on this afternoon, and we are in the middle of a high-pressure zone right across the whole of La Sarthe. That's the department which Le Mans sits in. We're quite a long way inland, so you haven't got cool breezes off the sea to make everything that much more pleasant. So just to remind you, the three factory hybrid teams that are running here, they're all doing it in different ways. One's doing it Audi for a Williams flywheel, storing everything in that flywheel, then releasing it. Toyota have gone down the supercapacitor route, which is a massive battery which just gives you a lightning charge. And then Porsche using lithium batteries. They believe this is the future, and that's all more gently released. But one thing we all have in common is four-wheel drive. The other thing they don't have in common is that Audi are still diesel powered and the other two are petrol powered. And this is why it's been so hard to get this balance right of how many megajoules you can release, how much fuel you've got to use over the course of a lap. But Paul Truswell from dailysportscar.com, he has worked out that he believes that Toyota and Porsche will be able to run 14 laps, Audi 13 laps. And Martin, we discussed this earlier on, and you reckoned that could be a really big hit for Audi.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and I think that all these manufacturers are, as we heard from David Ingham just a moment or two ago, to a degree they're looking at what happens here at Le Mans, but they're also to a degree looking at the real world future, and that's what Le Mans is. It is proving stuff for the real world future. So I think you have to look at what they're doing here and go, okay, that's the way they're going. Now they want to make it work, they want to prove it, but that is the way that they are going. And so they've all got their different philosophies. You know, Audi's been, as we know, has been very strong on pushing the diesel message. Now, long term, diesel and petrol are going to be unsustainable. So, in fact, I was thinking about this yesterday, and I didn't quite have the courage to ask any engineers when is their hydrogen cell car coming. But that is going to be the next massive step of development in cars, a car that uses hydrogen and produces only water as its byproduct, and that's a very long way away.
So riding with Benoit Trullier at the moment, the man from Alençon, and of course back-to-back winners here at Le Mans for Audi, together with Marcel Fassler and with Loic Duval. And Loic, if you're just joining us, just to let you know, was involved in a massive accident, a single car accident in Porsche curves. He has been sent to hospital, but he is talking to the team, and Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich, boss of Audi Motorsport, assured us that things are looking good. What the question that's going around the paddock now is, we know they can replace the car, which was utterly destroyed, but can they start the race with 2 drivers? Having declared and started the weekend with 3 drivers, can they now back off and say, well, we're only going to run 2 drivers? That's going to be one for the rule books, Martin.
Yeah, we need to when we're preparing for Le Mans, these are not rules that we necessarily go to first. We kind of look at driver biographies and who's in what car, and the really fundamental stuff. However, the teams will obviously be very well aware of what the rules are, and there is precedent. The Collis Audis, one of their cars ran with just 2 drivers. I'm going to say 2 or 3 years ago. It's probably more like 5 or 6 years ago now, realistically, isn't it? Because my time scale is about as useful as my sense of direction. So whether that's still legal or not, and physically possible in the brutal environment of a P1 car, couldn't tell you. We're going to take a quick pause. We'll be back. Hour and 45 minutes just over remains in our 4-hour free practice session here at Le Mans. Eurosport 2 and Eurosport throughout the weekend now, covering every live track session for the main race and the Group C historic race on Sunday. And after losing some 35 minutes or 40 minutes a little earlier on, after Loic Duval's number 1 Audi had a big crash, we are now getting a bit of a hurry up on, and you'll see drivers and cars taking as many chances here in free practice and in qualifying as they will do in the race, because toodling around going, oh, well, after you, no, after you, teaches you absolutely nothing about how your car is going to behave this weekend. And everybody, Mark Cole, is in the process now of finding out what the car will really do. Not what it did in all their tests at various other tracks, not what it did on test weekend, not what the simulator tells you. This is genuine, no backing away from it. We need to know now, and this is, you're driving the car exactly as it would do in the race.
Yeah, because what is really, really important, of course, is practice leads up to tonight's qualifying 1. Now, tomorrow, if for any reason the weather has changed and it's wet, tonight's times are going to count for the grid. So you're going to have to show your hand tonight. Whatever happens, you're going to have to put those banker laps in to make sure you've got your best possible run then. Perhaps tomorrow night you might do it again, but most teams will perhaps think already about changing engines ready for tomorrow evening and doing all their test runs, seeing exactly how their fuel and hybrid figures are going to come out, how long the tyres are going to last, and so this is, as you say, very, very important now. And I think Porsche probably start to show their hand now. They're still just at the back of the 3 factory teams, but that'll change, I'm sure. Timo Bernhardt, Romain Dumas on board, and they're going to have to show their hand, if not right now, in the next hour and 45 minutes, certainly at 10 o'clock when qualifying proper starts in the cooler air of the evening. That's when we'll see just how quick Porsche is round here.
At the moment, Nico Lapierre's number 8 Toyota has been the fastest car. That time was set before the pause. And having mentioned the reason for the red flag, those of you who are not aware, Loic Duval is conscious, awake, chatting to the team. He's spoken to Wolfgang Ulrich on the phone and is being taken into the hospital at the centre of Le Mans for further checks. So the only news that anybody in the team cares about is that Loic is okay, and whatever happens to the car happens to the car. That's neither here nor there. Absolutely immaterial at the moment. Whether they go forward with a repaired car, a new chassis, a 3-driver lineup, a 2-driver lineup, that's all yet to be decided. Nobody's even remotely interested in that in the team at the moment. They've got to get on with number 2, which of course is the 2011 and 12 winners. Number 1 was the 2013 winners, and their number 3 car as well, which is currently lying in 5th place in the time. So So 2 Audis, both on pit roads. Benoit Trillier handing over, as we saw, the number 2 car. And the number 3 car is back out on track as well. So Marcel Fessler has got on board, his first time in the car this weekend. And his little squirm as he leaves the pit apron. Again, like everywhere else, washed clean by the rain, so it's a little bit dusty. And once he's been freed from the pit limiter, car will build up to speed very quickly. Again, just chatting to Alan McNish yesterday, last year's winner in the number 1 car, who's now retired. He's doing his ambassadorial role, so I'm sure we'll hear from him. He said, he was talking about the cars, he said, you just cannot believe the brutality of the acceleration of these diesel cars. He said, well, you know, when the R10 came in with the V12 diesel engine, he said, just staggeringly fast, and still they are staggeringly fast accelerating. It's just unthinkable that the car can pick up pace at such a speed. And you know, and that's where the prototypes are now. They are just almost unfathomably quick.
The projectiles, aren't
they? Yeah, absolutely. Ground-based missiles, and largely ground-based, and much should they stay there. And you know, and that is part of the problem for the drivers in the GT categories, and to a lesser extent perhaps the LMP2 cars as well. But the fast P1 cars are just so ridiculously fast and perform so ridiculously well. The grip is insane, the braking is beyond human cognition, and trying to deal with these things coming up behind you when you're having your own race in your own car, which may not necessarily be in the best of health or might be in a very tight battle, just adds to the pressure on all these drivers. It's not about getting round a lap quick, it's not about getting round lots of laps quick, it's about this massive mental jigsaw puzzle that's going on.
On board with Marco Holzer, then the man who earlier on we saw break a drive shaft on the very first out lap. Martin picked that up, well done, and that car now starting to climb up the order board. They're currently in 4th place.
And of course the half-hour delay means they lost less time than they might otherwise have done to their rivals. And of course, and that, you know, there's a story, isn't there? You know, broke a drive shaft as it left the pits. Darn it. Pretty much guarantee that's now going to go on and win GTE class, can't you? You know that, because those are the sorts of Le Mans stories that happen. If it does, I very much doubt it'll be drama-free from here on in. I imagine there'll be an awful lot more waiting to come its way. No sign, incidentally, of Zedric reappearing from the Nissan Garage 56. The Ziod was brought back in during the stoppage. I saw it being pushed back into the garage, but it has not yet been pushed out. So that car, with its potential to do a full lap on just electric power, has yet to do a full lap on just petrol power. So, as with all new things, patience, I think, may well turn out to be a virtue. Roman Rusinov in his G-Drive Oreca Nissan.
Currently 6th in P2, and that car, of course, swapping the management team from Alan Docking's ADR squad last year, ADR Delta, to Oak Racing under Philippe Dumas this year. That's the Morgan Nissan, and Oak, of course, winning the World Championship last year and winning here at Le Mans. We're going to take another short break, be back. A lot of action still to go tonight. Hour and 20 of practice and 2 of qualifying. Here we are at Le Mans then, live on Eurosport. This is the 4-hour practice session prior to 3 2-hour blocks of qualifying, 1 tonight and 2 tomorrow night, which will set the grid for the 82nd running of the Le Mans 24 Hours. The number 8 Toyota then, Nick Lapierre on board, comes in, still the fastest man out on the track in the hour and 36 minutes of running, sorry, 2 hours, 30 minutes we've had of running. And that's ahead of Audi, Toyota, Audi, Porsche, and then a team we haven't mentioned much about tonight in 12th and 13th, the Rebellion, running their new coupes, those beautiful, beautiful coupes that Bart Hayden has finally managed to get out here. We saw them at Spa to start with and did a really good job there on the first time out. But here they are, running solidly as the only privateer P1 entries.
And a great, great looking car as well. Such a sexy beast, that Rebellion. And I talked about it earlier, but the new Ligier as well. What a beauty. It's absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous. Pierre Rag, Ricky Taylor and Keiko Haro's number 50 car. I thought the garage door was coming down there. There's Keiko. But the LMP2 car is out on track and still running with Ricky Taylor in it. Ricky Taylor is the one with the normal hair. Yeah. It's his brother that has got the mullet of Billy Ray Cyrus proportion.
It's just great to see Keiki back here, though. I mean, from grid girl at Autopolis to a full-on racing driver at Le Mans. Okay, she just keeps at it, doesn't she? Chips away year after year after year, and she's actually become quite a useful racer now. She keeps out of trouble.
Well, like us, Mark, you don't get any better by not doing it, do you? We're trying, you know, we're still hoping for improvements. All suggestions received. I'm not saying gratefully. At Martin Haven, at Liz Halliday, at Jeremy Shaw Racer. You can tweet us when we're on air.
Well, this is the 74 car then, the 74 Corvette, and on board that car at the moment is Ollie Gavin, no less, the man who had the double win at the Red Bull Ring last weekend, driving in the ADAC GT Masters. So, well done, Ollie. That was a very, very good weekend for you there, and I'm sure he's come here absolutely buoyed up and determined they're going to win this category. And just to remind you, as Liz told us earlier, this is not the same car he won on Sunday, and that was the CR6. This is the sexy CR7.
This is the C7 Z06, and this is an astonishingly aggressive Corvette. The most, in my mind, the most aggressive one since the Mako Shark Corvette of the early 70s. The last few generations, the C4, C5, C6, have been really nice, rounded, sexy-looking cars. This is in the mafiosi suit. This could not be sharper without risking the team cutting their fingers on the edges. It is such an aggressive-looking race car. In the way that the 458 Ferrari compared to the 360 is all look at it. It is all angles and mean attitude and aggression, and it's just gorgeous. And as I was saying the other day to a colleague, anything in lime green looks great. Anything in bright yellow looks great as well. That's a rule for life.
I knew you were going to get Tracy Chrome back into it. But interestingly, the Corvette, I mean, have you seen the price on the road in the UK? That car is now £65,000. And the Corvette used to be, you know, the poor man's Porsche. That's all changed.
Still cheaper than a Porsche.
just talking of Porsches, here is one of the more colourful Porsches running in the field this year. That's the 75 car, Pro Speed's car, with none other less than Manu Collard on board. I mean, one of the most experienced and successful of all sports car drivers. He's with Mathieu Xavier and Francois Perrodo. Now, Xavier should have been racing at Spa, shouldn't he? But had this accident at Monaco in the Formula 3.5 Renault. And as far as we know, he is racing this weekend, isn't he?
Well, ironically, he was replaced by a driver who was replaced in that same team after a crash at Spa where he injured his back. So, yeah, Xavier, very exciting young prospect. 2-litre Formula Renault last year, Formula Renault 3.5 this year. Bingo, bang, right in at Le Mans. This kid's on the fast escalator to success, definitely. A little bit of roll oversteer there on turn into Miko.
That's Manu on board, of course.
Wasn't Carl driver. That was the back mark he was trying to get round. Yeah, Manu Collard celebrating his 20th start here, so he's the most experienced driver in the race, but certainly not in terms of driver starts. That still remains Orin Pescarolo.
It does, yeah, absolutely.
And second to him is Takasan, I think, was it?
Yes, I think
he did all those races raced every Mazda that ever came here.
Yeah, Tajiro-san.
Tajiro-san, yes, yeah. Indeed.
So, there's the classification then. Look at those names there. Ligier, Oreca, Alpine, as we were talking about earlier. You know, these great names coming back now from Motorsport.
Waiting for the return of Matra.
Oh, yes. Well, someone will have to do it, won't we? Have a V12 in the back of a P2 car. Can you imagine that? And
that would be a P3 car. It would be so long, wouldn't it?
Yes. But P2 has just really, really been the star here at Le Mans this year. We've got such a big entry, 18 cars running in LMP2. And what a change that is from Spa, where they could only muster 5 cars, had so many withdrawals. That's actually, Martin, good point. We haven't mentioned much about the withdrawals from Le Mans this year, but the one car that is missing, everyone was waiting for with bated breath, was the Lotus T129, but that had from the Collis team, but that hasn't happened. It's apparently not yet quite homologated, and it's on the way, but and they have actually today delivered the prototype to the circuit, so everyone can see it, and it's in beautiful carbon matte black. Millennium should have had both cars entered. That's the team that Fabien Giroux puts together, but they've had financial problems, couldn't get the money. They were invited to come in with just one car, but even that crashed, or the crash financially last week. Straka should have been here with the new dome, but Danny Watts had an accident at Spa, and that, not his fault, something broke, and so that team can't come back to defend its title last year. We've got a slow car on the track here.
Yeah, very slow.
Yeah, it's 50. Number 50, which is the Labra competition, entered Morgan Judd. So,
and do you know why he's slow and why it looks like there's no rear wheel? No. Hasn't the bodywork shifted completely, or has he shed a rear wheel? If he shed a rear wheel, it's doing a really good job. No, that's a puncture, isn't it? It's running on the inside of the rim and a tiny bit of tyre. Boy, he's done a good job with that.
So Labra competition, of course, forever associated with Corvettes, but this year actually making the move up into P2, still running Pierre Riggs and Keiko Ihara, we saw in the pits, and Ricky Taylor.
And of course that's why they were focusing on the team, because they had heard that something had happened, and this is the something. Are we seeing a Marshall running out or legging it out into the track to pick up the entire carcass of the tyre? And Ricky Taylor brings it back in one piece. Well done, sir. That Morgan Judd seems to have suffered no other damage, and a bit of loss of time. Oh, and a bit of loss of the top rear bodywork.
You're back with Eurosport Live at Le Mans. You're on board with Giancarlo Fisichella, top running car in GT at the moment. This is the 51 GTE Pro Ferrari 458 Italia, the F Course team, just going through the Porsche curves and past the scene of Loic Duval's big accident earlier on this afternoon, which has put the number 1 Audi, the defending Le Mans champion, certainly in doubt as an entry now, because if Loic Duval is badly enough shaken up not to be able to start, then we will have to wait and see if just 2 drivers will be allowed to start Le Mans.
Well, on Twitter, Ryan Williams is suggesting that as Marc Genet is an Audi reserve driver, there might be an agreement with Jota to have him back. Now, Sam Hignett at Jota and the rest of the team would, like to have a full strength in their car, because they've definitely got to be a hot opportunity for them to win the LMP2 class. Simon Dolan, Harry Tincknell have been very successful in European Le Mans Series racing, leading both races so far this season. They led at Silverstone, incident where a back marker had him off exiting the Chapel Curve, put Simon Dolan into a massive shunt. But then when they came back at Imola, Tincknell handed over the car, and Simon Dolan fought through to win the race. So it's a great opportunity. Marc Genet, very good pair of hands to have in the car. So if they were to let Genet go to potentially a number 1 Audi car, if the car is fit but Loic Duval isn't, then that would leave them with an issue. Now, Sam Hancock coming to join us in the booth, a former Jota Sport driver, I'm not sure is bringing his helmet. We've got world champion Stuart Hall coming to us. He's driven prototypes here for Aston Martin and for Roll Centre Racing, Martin Short. Damon Faulkner never raced a prototype yet, as far as I'm aware, although he's got plenty of GT Porsche experience. So maybe we'll say in the email, boys, we'd love to have you. By the way, don't forget, bring your helmet, bring your racing. Never go to, as a driver, never go to a racetrack without a race seal. I always bring my voice.
Yeah, but hang on, Martin, where does that leave us? We're then short of 1 driver, so then
we'll take one.
Go on order.
We'll take one for the team, and maybe we can speak to Dr. Ulrich and get Loic Duval into the booth. I know the French next door would love to have him.
I have to say, it's a very good conjecture. I'm very impressed with that. Of course, the whole point point of putting Marc Gené into that car was that Alan McNish wanted Harry Tincknell to give him some up-close mentoring, which he obviously can't do as a driver now. And so Marc would be there helping him as they develop the car. And Harry Tincknell, again, you know, one of these young British drivers who I think has got a huge future ahead of him. And Alan has seen the light. He's seen him all the way through Formula Ford, Formula 3. Now here's his chance at Le Mans. And I think he could be a great sports car driver in the Alan McNish mode.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think there's a sudden influx of lots of young British drivers now coming into sports car racing, coming into Le Mans racing. You talked a little bit earlier about John Lancaster. Of course, we've got Sam Bird in as well. And you know, these guys are definitely going to be the future of British sports car racing. Now, here's an incident where the Porsche is trying to come into its garage and there's a Ferrari rather badly parked. That's the JMW Flying Lizards Ferrari. Porsche comes in, Ferrari turn. Yeah, sorry, undershot there a little bit. Sorry about that. Now, see, in free practice, not so much of an issue. In the race, that could cost you the win. Without being facetious, that absolutely could cost you the win. Fernando Reis there's the Bamboo Craft Racing driver.
Yeah, big change for Fernando, of course. He's been with Jack LeConte's Corvette team for years and years and years, and now he's made the move. And,
sort of staying with what he knows. Big front-engine GT car, yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure, yes, absolutely very different in feel, but not so much as going to a mid-engine prototype might have been.
Yeah, but obviously we'll talk more about GTI when Stuart's here. He comes here as the defending world champion for Aston Martin Golf last year, and as Martin is just showing us again, you can't see it on your screens, world champ Stewie Hall all over his card. If that doesn't get him into the media centre, nothing will. We can't get him.
Faulkner is on the Twitter machine. Right. Hey, mister, I have raced a prototype and won. OK, I beg your pardon. Right, hang on a minute. I'm adjusting. I may have to tweet some of the name badges. At the moment, it says Damien Damo Faulkner. I might have to just add, I raced a prototype and won on it.
So into the pits for one of the Golf Astons. That is in fact, which car is that? Which is in the pits now? Pedro Lamy. He's bought that car in. Yeah. That is the 98 car. He's sharing with Paul Dall'Anna and Christopher Nygaard.
And the 95 car's in as well. And that's that trunking at the back in any prototype would be the air intake, and it is an air intake clearly. I'm thinking what it is for the differential. The Krone Racing Ferrari, one of the 27 AF Corsa Racing Ferraris. That's the 51 Giancarlo Fisichella going around the outside, and the Aston Martin as there in the Porsche curve, showing just how tight things are.
Yeah, he sort of got in everyone's way for a moment, didn't they? Who was on board the Krone car then? I don't mean to put you on the spot, Martin. Sorry.
No, well, good, because I wasn't looking.
57 car.
I was just looking at the top of the time sheet.
It is Tracy himself, yeah.
As the fourth-placed Audi comes across the line, not an improvement for them. Nico Lapierre, number 8 Toyota, just going out of the pits. That car is fastest. Number 7 Toyota out on track in the hands of Kazuki Nakajima. That car is second quickest, so that's improved.
Yeah, finally deposed the number 1 Audi that is no longer taking part in proceedings. And then lining up behind them, Marcel Fassler and Britain's Ollie Jarvis, all the way from Newmarket. This is Ollie's big chance.
It's a long way from Newmarket. Everywhere it's a long way from Newmarket.
Well, this is Ollie's big chance, of course. Again, he has been such an impressive driver for Audi over the years. And strangely enough, racing for Toyota and Super GT in Japan, but still very much...
Well, he's not alone, is he? Because a number of the Audi drivers race in Super GT and Nippon in Japan as well, and race for other manufacturers and other teams.
Nissan and, So it's a lot of crossover going on there. But Ollie Jarvis particularly, I mean, his best was a third last year at Le Mans, and he was I talked to him this morning, he just said, could do with that win now.
Yeah, absolutely. But as a Le Mans rookie, to stand on that podium, it's not exactly on the fingers of one hand can you count the number of people that do that, but that is a fairly exclusive club. He's been on the podium at Le Mans in the top class, third overall in his first ever start here. It's not a bad way to get your break, is it? And he's been a good servant to Audi. Kazuki Nakajima, incidentally, has just gone fastest of all in the final sector on the last lap, so that car improves again. In fact, it's overall lap time was a 3-minute 25.8. Its fastest time is a 3-minute 24.2. So a massive improvement in the final sector for Kazuki. But he was obviously building up to speed on that outlap. So now he's on the flyer as we watch.
That's Fabien Barthez at the wheel.
The Barthez Ferrari coming down the hill, a 58 car.
That's the Sovreev's ASN team, which is run by Jeroen Polykand, another prototype driver, and great note in his past. He's now gone into team management, and last year they got the French GT Championship together with Fabien Barthez and Morgan Moulin-Trafford. And Fabien now having his first crack at Le Mans.
See lots of cars being pushed back into the garage. This is not, quote, a bad thing. On the pit apron, you're not allowed more than 4 people working on the car at any one time. If you need anything doing that's not fuel and tyres, straight back in the garage, then you can throw as many bodies and parts, and you've got your own space. You don't have to worry about getting run over by somebody coming into their pit stop. So that's why cars regularly go back in.
Welcome back to Eurosport here at Le Mans. We are in the final 1 hour 15 minutes of practice tonight, the 4-hour practice session before qualifying starts with a vengeance at 10 o'clock this evening through till midnight. 2 more sessions tomorrow. So there we are, looking at the GT classification at the moment. Giancarlo Fisichella still top of the pile, and Martin Haven just pointing out a yellow at...
Marshalls Post 121, which is where Loic Duval had his crash in the Porsche curves. Just while you were away on the break, we were rather enjoying riding on board with one of the Toyotas on the run up to Indianapolis. It was just getting up to 336 kilometers an hour, the mere 209 miles an hour, and apparently they've been over 240 already in a slipstream. Well, there is a car at the side of the road. It's a
P2 car of some
P2 car. It's an open P2 car, which narrows it down slightly. I'm not pointing fingers. Chris Dyson has just left the pit.
Car 41, contact at P141. So that is the Caterham racing car of Alessandro Latifi, James Winslow and Michael Nuneman, who's on board that at the moment.
Yeah, he is. Yes, he is.
That is Nuneman, who is... So has he gone off? He's had a contact, it says on our...
Well, he's had a contact with the wall is what he's had.
Yeah.
Whether he had contact with an actual person or not, I'm not quite sure.
Contact at post 121, stopped at 123, so obviously pulled off, or it went on for a long time, one or the other. Here is the number 73 Corvette, factory Corvette, and of course no mistaking them for the Labra ones this year, because Labra are not racing Corvettes. This is one of the many Taylors racing at the moment.
Well, Wayne's sort of given up, hasn't he? Sort of. As much as Wayne Taylor will ever retire from racing, but yes.
But this is Jordan, and Jordan and Ricky carrying on the family tradition in great style. And Jordan particularly has become a fixture at Corvette racing now. Darren Turner and he trading lap times at the moment, still both trying to dip into the 350s.
And in fact, if you are on Twitter, follow Jordan Taylor, because he is just genius. He's got this mullet of which he is inestimably proud for reasons that must remain lost within his fetid imagination. However, he's come here with his camera and a little metal cutout of a mullet, which he holds up in front of the camera and then positions over your head. So he's been taking not selfies, but snaps of all his teammates with the mullet applied, which he was doing in scrutineering, as we do ever since. So I think it's at Jordan Taylor, but you will be able to find him on Twitter. If you are a Twitter fan, he is definitely worth a follow.
So just looking at Fisichella coming downhill through the La Chapelle, still fastest man on the track, and Fizzy of course falling out with his teammate Jimmy Bruni towards the end of last year, and was he suddenly went off the boil a bit, didn't he? And Jimmy Bruni decided to replace him for the final race at Bahrain, helped him win the championship. But Giancarlo back in favour with of course this year. He's had some good races in America in the meantime. Seems to have refound his form.
Driver change at Porsche. And if you wonder how we know who's in, it's because we're psychic. Oh yeah, and also when they plug their radio in, there's a little transponder there that tells the timing screens who's in the car. So Romain Dumas out from his helmet. You can tell it's Neil Yarney who got in, and now he's plugged his helmet in. Immediately it pops up on the graphics that he has done so. Now, are we seeing a nighttime nose going on here for Porsche now? Was there a little bit of damage? They feel they might have picked up a debris. Or are they now going to try something different? We've got two slightly different variations of lights and or aero. I mean, you can't test the lights now, but of an aero package at the front. And so it may well be that they are just running through that with Neil. Toyota have just finished a couple of long runs. Nico Lapierre had done one just about when they got to the red flag before. Just seen Kazuki Nakajima complete one. 13 laps on the Toyota, but the feeling is, in the LMP1 hybrid class, that if you can't do 14, you're nowhere. So that's going to be interesting, because essentially it's not now about how fast you can go, it's how fast you can go without using any more energy than anybody else. So there is a very definite pecking order now. If you can't get the laps in, it means you're not using the same amount of energy per lap as efficiently as your rivals. So if we break it down into basic terms, it's still kind of miles per gallon. You're not doing enough miles per gallon. You have to stop earlier than they do, assuming you're going at an equal speed. And here, you can't use more fuel if you've slowed down or if you get delayed, because there is a definitive amount you use per lap. And so that means that if you're not on the pace... I mean, the engineers are saying... I was talking to Ulrich Boretsky, who's Audi's engine designer, and he said basically every single lap on track now must be driven like a qualifying lap. Absolutely no leeway in terms of pace, because you can't ever make up a second that you've lost on track. And that's unbelievable pressure. This is going to have probably the greatest single effect on drivers at this race. I was going to say since the introduction of the chicanes, which turned it from a sort of endurance event into a series of sprints. I think probably including the introduction of the chicane, I think this is going to utterly transform the way that this race is driven and that these cars must be handled. And that's going to put phenomenal pressure on the cars, phenomenal pressure on the drivers, because there's no chance of relaxing anywhere. If you give away a second in traffic now, you can never get it back. Yep. So the pressure is upped all the time.
It's been the same for all the 6-hour races, same in the 24. There are sprint races from start to finish. So on board with the number 3 Audi, and this is where you get up to this big speed on the Mulsanne Straight, although the camera's frozen for the moment. And just passing there one of the LMP2 coupes. You're riding on board with Oliver Jarvis at the moment, going into the first chicane. And as Ollie continues on his way around another lap, we're going to take another break. Plenty of action still to come. We've got another 3 and a bit hours to go this evening. There will be a break between 8 o'clock here and the 10 o'clock start for official qualifying 1. It's over the line.
Well, that's the G-Drive car, isn't it?
Yep.
We'll take a quick commercial break as Mark Shoots to Kill, is his Twitter handle, carries on in the G-Drive Nissan. Thumbs up from Aston Martin racing driver Bruno Senna on the right and Fernando Reis on the left, sharing different cars, but as part of the huge swathe of Aston Martins that are in the pit lane. And Sam Bird's Ferrari is in the pits as well at AF Corsa. They're running 7 cars, AF Corsa, in the 2 GT classes. Not all of them red, white and green. Just 5 of them are red, white and green choices. So we are into almost the final hour of our 4-hour free practice session. Then there'll be 2 hours where the track is given over to one of Saturday morning support races, the French Porsche Cup. I think with wild cards from the British Carrera Cup as well joining in. They'll be having practice. And tomorrow evening, between the sessions, we will also have practice for the Group C sports car race, which will be with no disrespect to the French Ferrari drivers, what everybody is looking forward to on Saturday morning before the big event gets underway.
Yeah.
So the classification, the GTE AM class. About half the GTE field is in the pit lane at the moment. Fastest GTE class is the Pro class. Darren Turner's Aston Martin is quickest from Giancarlo Fisichella's 51 AF Corsa.
Having said that, Nicky Timms just popped up ahead of them in an AM car.
In the Aston in an AM car.
Yeah.
So Nicky Thiem in the 95. Now he is the third man in the all-Danish crewed car. And David Leslie's oldest son is the lead mechanic on that. So we've got an awful lot of interest in that car as well.
And I think, Martin, it's worth pointing out to our audience that this year the AM cars and Pro cars are largely of identical spec. We no longer have to be Euro. It's all down now to the drivers, that you have to have 2 silver or bronze drivers with 1 Pro. Nicky Thiem is the Pro there. He's put that Aston Martin GTE AM car fastest at the moment, ahead of Darren Turner and Giancarlo Fisichella. So the Ferraris haven't had it all their own way, have they? As you said, Aston suddenly popping up at the top.
Yeah, absolutely right. And just to reiterate that you can use the same kit in the AM class as in the Pro class. There are some cars that are an older spec, that aren't the new Porsche, for instance, and may not have the latest Aston bits or may not have the latest Ferrari bits, but you are able to use it. And there are some AM cars, absolutely, who are going to be very, very troubling to a lot of the GTE Pro cars. Now, just again, a couple of little messages. For those of you who haven't caught up, we had a big interruption in our free practice session earlier on when Loic Duval's number 1 Audi had a huge accident in the Porsche curves. It flew backwards over the wall, not over the height of the wall, and into the catch fencing, and tore the back of the car off. Landed, fortunately, on its wheels. And Loic was conscious when the rescue crews got to him. We just had the official statement released by the ACO. The driver was conscious when the rescue crews got to him. He was stabilised under medical supervision, extracted. He's been taken to Centre Hospitalier in the centre of Le Mans for further examination. He was talking to the crew. I believe he spoke to Dr. Ulrich on the phone. And Wolfgang Ulrich then came out and gave us, or Radio Le Mans at least, the good news that his driver was okay. So from there we will then wait to see what the team decide, whether there is a chance of running a third car again, and whether or not Loic would be part of that crew. But Dave Warnock on Twitter, one of those, I'm sure, who with everybody else, very glad to see that Loic was okay. He in fact raced with Loic in 1997. They were in a Celine Mustang. There's 2 words we haven't said in a long while here at Le Mans.
Yeah.
So although not that 17 years ago.
Yeah.
17 years ago.
That's Celine.
Oh, I'm feeling old now. Well, goodness.
And again,
me.
when we're talking about the Corvettes, remember who started it all over here? The Callaway Corvettes, Reeves Callaway, and his eponymous team. And,
76.
Yeah, the team based basically on the money that the family made from Big Bertha golf clubs.
Yeah.
And
my granddad told me all about that.
Here is Darren Turner then, one of Britain's finest drivers. I was on a series of radio programs during the week with him, just promoting the race through British radio stations, and we referred to Darren as now Britain's latest national treasure, having taken over from Gary Barlow, as Gary's not terribly popular with Prime Minister at the moment.
Really?
So, yeah, but Darren, what a great job he's done. He's been with ProDrive all his racing career, once he moved from single-seaters, and raced those beautiful 550 Maranello Ferraris, and then he was in the Aston Martin program right from the start, and what a great job he's done, and he's still doing. And you know, Darren is a man who can not only win Le Mans but win the World Championship this year.
Definitely right. There's no question at all. He's enormously fast, very understated, and clearly he is one of the big assets in that ProDrive lineup. So there can't be much wrong with his ability to sort a car and to provide the feedback required as well. There's the number 1 in orange on the 95 car. That's the GTE AM colour. Green is for GTE Pro, as you see here on the flash on the 91 car. Blue lights on the side, 1 for leader, 2nd for second in class, 3 for third in class, as we go into Indianapolis with the Porsche clock running. Blue is for LMP2, red lights on the side, 1 for the leader, 2 for second, 3 for third, as in all classes, are for the LMP1 cars.
Yeah, this is where things start to get a little bit difficult for the drivers. Sun's starting to sink into the west, and as they come on the western approaches out of those straights, particularly that run down towards Indianapolis, they got the sun right in their eyes. Quite a tricky time for drivers. It's the exact opposite what happens in the morning. Of course, the sun rises in the east behind them, and it's what all the drivers refer to as happy hour, because track gets very, very fast at that time. And Darren Turner was explaining this to our audience, you know, just about how drivers feel great because they've got through the night, and you've got just that bit of day ahead of you now, and everything's starting to look good.
And it's 5 a.m. and you think, yep, we're nearly there. And then you realise you haven't got halfway through barely, and that's when the energy sags again. Yeah, we used to get that up in the booth above the main grandstands. The moment the sun started to rise, it'd be pouring in the windows, and that's when you really feel the pressure. Damien Faulkner, incidentally, continuing to claim that he's won in a prototype. Mondello Park World Sports Car Championship for SRTS in 2001. World Sports WSPC at Mondello Park.
Yep. Those are the days.
Dear, oh dear.
Yep, John Mangalet's series. So, yeah. So Nick Lapierre still top of the timing sheets from Kazuki Nakajima. Loic Duval's car still showing as third. No one's bettered that time amongst the Audis. Marcel Fassler, Oliver Jarvis, Team Bernhardt are top 6. As we're going to take another break. Back for plenty of action still. Another hour of practice to go.
Welcome back to the Le Mans pit lane inside the final hour of first free practice, or the free practice session. Darren Turner brings the top GTE Pro car in. Again, green lights on the side, the indicators 1, 2 and 3. This system introduced the American Le Mans series by 15 years ago, I guess, and adopted at Le Mans, and a very sensible thing too. It allows the crowd trackside and sofa side to see instantly who the class leaders are. Darren Turner's car being wheeled back into the garage. As we said earlier, we'll probably point out again, so bear with us if you know it all or you have heard it before, because we're on for a long time and not everybody can stay with us the whole time. Cars habitually roll back into the garage if anything other than fuel or tyres needs doing, because it's safer, easier and more comfortable and convenient to work in the garage, because you can use more people, take more bits off and put more bits on without risking getting run over. Out on track, meanwhile, inside the final hour, still the Toyotas got the quickest time. Sebastian Buemi has just left the pits in the number 8 car that set the fast time early on, and that was before the stoppage mark, Cole. And since then, it seems that although the track's getting more use, either they had done and established a time then that they were happy with and they were starting long runs, or the track is going away from them as the heat drops out of it or something, but that nobody seems to be getting any improvements out of their cars, which suggests, having lost the better part of one of our 4 hours to Loic Duval's accident and the red flag that followed, I think everybody's just going, right, long runs, need to know what these things are going to do.
Yeah, and I'm sure Audi have put the order out. We've lost one of the better part of our 3 Audis, so we're going to just back off a little bit, guys, get those runs in. The fast time's always going to come later as darkness falls. It's traditional here at Le Mans. Track cools down. It's also got more rubbered up, and you could well see pole set tonight, though we've often said that. Pole tonight, and L'Equipe, the French sporting daily, will come out with Peugeot on top, or you used to say that, and of course what would happen the following day, Audi would go out and then blitz it, and L'Equipe would have to do it all over again the following night. So
there you go. It's 2 headlines for the price of 1, really.
Yeah, exactly. So again, Fassler then putting that quick one in and starting to move the Audi up. Just as we're saying, they're not improving times. Bruno's just done a 3:23 and he's knocking on the door of Sebastian Buemi's Toyota.
Yeah, Marcel Fassler got into that car half a dozen laps ago, so that's quite interesting. He's only now 3/10 away, and you're right, that has halved the gap.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. That the Kazuki Nakajima car, he's now doing very quick laps in that as well, but still not quite as quick as it was going a little earlier on. Looking at the overall classification on your screen. And just to remind you, here on Eurosport 2, she'll do this now while you're looking at the classification as soon as the Wilfried Tsonga match finishes Roland Garros on Eurosport 1. Not Roland Garros at Queen's. As soon as the Tsonga match finishes, we will go over to Eurosport 1, Eurosport International, British Eurosport 1, whichever you're receiving. So if you're with us now, when we go to a break and then there's something else on, it's not that we got bored and gave up, it's that we've flicked onto the other one. So see if you can stir yourself enough to flick this screen back up one. We've got a yellow flag out at Marshall's Post 95B. Now, just to point out, there are not necessarily 150 Marshall posts around the track, but they are measured on kilometres. So Marshall's Post 95B is kilometre 9.5 around the track, and that's the SMP Racing prototype facing the wrong way. So he's looped it round into the second part of Indianapolis.
Yeah, but on the banked part.
Yeah, and you know, there, Mark, it is banked, that left-hander.
Yep.
And we were talking about it last night, Jerry and I, he's saying there's not much runoff, is there? I said, no, and the other thing is the runoff's not banked. So the moment you pop over the brow, you're sort of still going up, and the runoff area is flat and effectively goes down below you. So it is an easy place to have quite a big accident, as we have seen in the past.
So who's on board that SMP car at the moment? Did we spot that?
37 car?
Yeah, that's up my end.
That is your end. Yeah, you've got the number one screen.
Yeah, that's...
Well, that's the third quiz. That's Kirill Ladigin, the ex-Russian touring car driver, who in the last couple of years has converted from touring cars into sports car racing. He's doing Blancpain as well as European Le Mans Series racing. He's getting a lot of miles under his belt.
But he was a rookie.
Yes, he is here. Yes, absolutely.
But of course, he and Maurizio Mediani have got Nick Manassim with them, and that's obviously going to... Kirill's going to learn a lot this weekend from him, isn't he? Second in 2008 with Peugeot, and Nick still at the top of his form. And
you know, anytime you come here and do a race, the more miles you do, the more, you know, the less wide-eyed you get, and the more you actually really start to learn this stuff.
Yeah, it might be a Russian team, but it's actually run by AF Corsa, Amato Ferrari's squad, just to give them help. So here's the 36 car, the beautiful Alpine.
He was Russian as well.
Yeah.
Russian into the pits, Russian to get out the seat.
This is Oliver Webb. It may not be a name that's familiar to a lot of you, but he is a Mancunian and run a lot in America in Indy Lights. Did do the Formula Renault 3.5 series last year.
And that's where Eurosport viewers will know him from, because actually we're quite aware of Ollie Webb as he's progressed up through the order. And yes, particularly from Formula Renault 3.5.
Yeah, so a lot of new names here, a lot of young Brits here. We haven't actually done a count of how many British drivers there are, but I think we've probably got something approaching 30 out of the 165 drivers. Might even be more. And of course, again, probably 60,000 British spectators will be pouring down here to Le Mans over the next few days, and we'll give you a little update after the next break about what to avoid on the way down. There are a couple of problem areas just to avoid. So.
Avoid speeding. Avoid speeding, seriously, because not only can they fine you, the French police can impound your car and never give it back.
Welcome back to Eurosport. This is the moment when things get a little bit tricky as the sun starts to drop absolutely level with the eyes of the drivers, as we're just going into Porsche curves, riding on the number 74 Corvette, which at the moment is in the hands of Tommy Milner. And Tom's been here many times. Got of course, Ferrari just ahead of him, which is... Just trying to see which number that is. Oh, that's why he's moved over. He's got an Audi coming through, which is monstering all... No, it's a Toyota, sorry, monstering all of them as they come through.
Now, that's the Tyson car, isn't it? Yeah, that's the 70 car. Shinji Nakano, Pierre Arret, and Martin Rich. And it's Martin Rich, I think, who's driving it. Yep. It's red like almost all their cars, but it hasn't got white and green. It's just got those white stripes.
Yep. This team, of course, run by Ricky Chiba from Japan, the tallest Japanese I've ever met. Certainly, he's well over 6 foot, and Ricky used to be involved in the Group C racing, so he's got a long history in international sports car racing, and so a little bit of a nudge as he goes by. Oh, just threading the needle past the Alpine there, just coming out of the pits.
Yeah, the Alpine we just saw being handed over before the break. And who's come out in that? Frontmeyer? I think, yes. So
Nelson Panciatici.
Panciatici's in it, is he?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the wrong one then.
Yeah, it's okay. It's the one that says Alp.
Yeah, I was looking at the wrong one.
So into the pits then comes one of the two Toyotas, the number 7 car, which Nakajima's been out in for some time. Looks like he's staying in it. Didn't see a driver change there.
Well, getting good long runs going, and of course what we might see here is just fuel going in and no tyres, so they are race simulating in all ways, not just keep going, but also keep going on the same set of Michelins. We have seen Michelin tyres being 5 stinted on Audis before now, and the word is that not only will the cars need to do 14 lap stints on their energy, so fuel, they are also likely to need to do a 6-stint Michelin tyre run during the cool of the night. It's probably not going to happen in the heat of the day. 77 Pat Long in the black and silver Dempsey Racing Porsche.
Looks great, doesn't it, Martin?
Yeah,
looks great.
Absolutely does.
Yeah, we were talking about Patrick Dempsey earlier, and the crowd worship around this driver, and it must be so hard for him to work.
Well, when he came here the first time a couple of years ago, 3 years ago is it now, he was racing a Ferrari, wasn't he? And when he had his shades on and a cap on and a minder with him, he was mobbed. I saw him a few hours later in his race suit, no hat, no shades, nothing, just walking back through the paddock. He was just a bloke in a race suit. Then he stopped being somebody special who had a minder and didn't draw attraction to himself.
Yeah.
Not one person stopped him. I thought, hidden in plain sight, that's exactly what he was. Then he was just one of those racing driver guys. If you've got a hat on and you're hiding yourself and you've got a big black minder, as he did, then you are a real target for the fans.
That's how it used to be with Paul Newman all his racing days, racing at Daytona, or as a team owner in IndyCar racing, Champ Car racing. He was just another one of the guys.
Well, and Dempsey is. No question about it. Everybody who's involved with him has been involved with him. If you've watched any of the Patrick Dempsey programs on TV over various different networks, including on Eurosport, he is a man who is a racing driver who happens to act for a living, and that's very much the way he sees it. And if something comes up that's inescapably good, then racing may have to take a temporary back seat. But until then, racing is the prime focus. And he said, I'm very lucky that my career has allowed me the opportunity to spend a couple of years really focusing on being a racing driver. Well, back into the garage goes a very different type of Porsche. That's the number 14 Porsche prototype, the 919. Yanni, Switzerland's driver, brought him in. And all their drivers getting a run in and out in the cars at the moment. And the best of the Porsches at the moment is the number 20 car, Brendan Hartley, in 6th position. And actually the Murphy's prototype crew, with who Brendan raced last year, posted a very good photo on Twitter yesterday of the Murphy's prototype team boss in bed with a full double duvet size Brendan Hartley picture duvet cover. Who on earth came up with that promotional item, and B, genius, just absolutely hats off. And that sums up the whole spirit of it. If you've 74 Corvette grinding to a halt now, the first, and we're not hearing onboard audio. Now that's not coming back to the pits, is it? That is on the run from Arnage down towards the Porsche curves.
Yeah, that's Tom Milner. We were just talking about him, and
losing fluid at the rear, so that's not a good thing. So Tommy Milner, son of Tom Milner Senior. Tom Milner is his dad. There you go. So he's just, you can see him up on the left-hand side there, just where the two sets of headlights are coming through. That's where he stopped. So he's 1.25 miles from the pit lane. So now the conversation will go on. Yeah, tried that. Yeah, I'm doing that. No, that's not working. Well, we're going to head over to Eurosport International in a couple of minutes. So looks as though tennis is wrapping up there. Forgive me if I don't know if it's at Queen's or wherever, Stella Eastbourne or whatever, but whatever, that's where we'll be going. Looking at the all-Chinese crewed Ligier there. Adli Fong out for the first time in this car. raced in British Formula 3, raced in Super League Formula, and trying to really find his feet now in sports car racing. First time here at Le Mans. We've got two rookies in this car. Ho Pin Tung shares the car with David Cheng. Cheng and Fong, both rookies, and Ho has raced here once before, so not a wildly experienced driver lineup, and of course a brand new car as well. You know, the very best thing that they can hope for is that they get to see the checkered flag, Mark. You know, beyond that, then you're into wildest dreams territory, aren't you?
Oh yes, I mean, just to finish there is something, absolutely something, but to be on a podium of some sort is even better. It's what every racing driver wants.
Yeah.
You know, in the old days, Formula 1 drivers would have a crack at Le Mans, the World Championship, Formula 1 and Indianapolis 500. And the only person who still won all three to date was Graham Hill.
Yep. And of course the great appeal here about Le Mans for pros and for AMs alike is that you can still do it. The number of people who'll get to do the Monaco Grand Prix per year is extraordinarily limited. Same with Indianapolis. But, you know, as Adrian Newey said to us all those years ago when he came here last, he said, this is the great thing, you know, they won't let me race in Monaco, they're not going to let me race in Indianapolis, they will let me race at Le Mans. And, you know, of the three, actually probably the most challenging for a driver to do still. Mark Webber was saying a little bit earlier, when I got the call from Porsche, I could not say no. You know, he raced here at Le Mans and in sports cars before he went to Formula 1, and you know, after that slight wrong turn in his career, he is returning to the light. He's rejoined from the dark side and is back enjoying every minute of being a Porsche sports car driver. Jörg Bergmeister obviously looked like he's working hard there. But of course that 919, Mark, is a brand new concept for them, but they've not got what Toyota have got, they've not got what Audi have got, which is last year, the year before's experience of Le Mans, of sports car racing. So they didn't have a team to start with, so they're really building themselves up to speed. Well, we'll change channels now in just a moment. Welcome back to Le Mans for the final 40 minutes of the free practice session here. 4 hours it was scheduled to be. We've had a delay, a red flag period after Loic Duval crashed his #1 Audi very heavily, last year's winning car, with 2/3 of last year's winning crew on board. Tom Christensen, Loic Duval, Lucas Di Grassi replacing Alan McNish. And Di Grassi now with not much to do, certainly nothing at all to do this evening. Not much to do at the moment until the Audi team decide with the doctors whether or not Loic Duval is fit to race. If he's not, whether they can replace him. If the car is fit to race, if it's not, whether they can replace it, and many other questions. Martin Haven and Mark Cole in the booth watching proceedings as we wait the arrival of the rest of our comprehensively talented Eurosport team. Jeremy Shaw is down in pit road. Liz Halliday also down there as well, beavering about and finding out what's going on. And with a delay in free practice, everybody now even more on the hurry up to get through their programs. Mark, you're going to need to press your button if you want to speak. I'm waiting for you to press it so I can take a breath.
Yeah, as you said, the rest of our team coming, including reigning world champion Stuart Hall, Mondello Park LMP2 winner Damien Faulkner, and Sam Hancock, who are really looking forward to working with him as well. So we've got a really top driver lineup team. Chris Parsons, Neville Hay en route to Le Mans as we speak. We'll be hearing from them during this evening's programme.
Lord Neville will be in the house, indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll be covering the Group C Legends race on Saturday, as well as helping us with the night watch overnight on Saturday. But just as we mentioned earlier, Martin, just a word of warning to everyone coming down from Calais, Rouen. As you come down to Rouen is still effectively closed because of the work on the Pont Mathilde, the main bridge that goes over the river. So you will see diversion signs as you approach Rouen. You'll be sent to the right to go on the A29 towards Le Havre, and then very, very soon after that, the A151 will take you down through the docks, over the new bridge by the docks, and then you rejoin the road to Le Mans just by the castle of Robert the Devil. Remember that? Robert the Diable.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's on the A13, and then of course it's normal service on way down to Le Mans. So just look out for the diversions. It's very, very clearly marked. You won't go wrong. It says Le Mans right from the start of that. So don't go into Rouen the normal way.
And do be very careful with your speed. In all seriousness, not only are the French police very keen on their €90 on-the-spot fines, if you are speeding excessively, they will take your driving licence away, which means you won't be able to even hire a car, and they may take your car away, which you will never see again.
Particularly if it's a McLaren 650S.
Yes, it doesn't matter. If it's a hire car, they won't. But you will get a substantial fine. They will take your licence away. You'll be stranded at the side of the road with no transport. But seriously, they are legally allowed to take your car, and do. So if you like your high-powered sports car or executive saloon, try not to cane it too much on French roads on your way down, because, hey, this just in, the French No Le Mans is going on as well. So don't tell us afterwards on Twitter that you didn't know, because we're trying to do our best to warn you.
Yeah, and we're well aware how many of you are coming. Probably 60,000 Brits here amongst the 260,000 crowd. We've got another 28 million listening in on British Eurosport and Eurosport International in English language. So hello to all of you out there, especially those of you in the new worlds and down under. Great to have you all with us. And this is really as good as it gets, isn't it? Live motorsport from Le Mans in the prelude to the Le Mans 24 Hours. As we watch the 37 car, P2 car of Kirill Ladygin. Just talked up him a little bit earlier in the Russian entered car he's sharing with Mediani and Nick Miasian. That car just being dollied into the garage. As Martin said earlier, said that you can have more hands working on the car once it's in the garage, and it doesn't mean that anything wrong with it. It just means you can do more, people can do more work. We've just got 36 minutes left, and this is where they now need to make those final adjustments to make sure the cars are in absolutely top trim for the all-important first qualifying tonight. So the commissars there, great job they do. 2,000 marshals manning 156 posts, not all on the track, but a lot of them in the pits. And when we say posts, that includes all the marshals looking after the parking and the security and everything. So it's a lot of people. It's a big effort, this, and the ACO really does a great job, and congratulations to them and everyone. 82nd edition of this race, the race that started in 1923, and of course Le Mans first saw action as home of the first ever Grand Prix, the French Grand Prix in 1906. So nowhere has a longer history than Le Mans.
And they reenacted it, didn't they, a few years ago on the forest roads around this area.
2006, 100 years.
And I'm definitely hoping to be coming back for the centenary of Le Mans.
Yeah, and of course, not only was it motorsport, it's where the Wright brothers first flew in Europe. In fact, first powered flight in Europe, here on the Ligne droite de Honaudière, what we call the Mulsanne Strait, being English. You know, it's have to be different, don't we?
I'm assuming the trees that are there now weren't there then. Otherwise, that would have been a very touch and go takeoff and landing.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, this is slightly sort of France's, or used to be slightly France's equivalent, sort of Birmingham, Coventry area. It was a major industrial powerhouse, and one of our colleagues, Laurent Fred Bollé, his great-grandfather, who was a foundry owner, cast bells for Notre Dame, among other places. Laurent Bollé cars were among some of France's earliest and most prestigious automobiles, and a lot of automobile manufacture, motorcycle manufacturers done around here in the very early years of motoring.
Yeah, and then of course much more recently the commemorations for 70th anniversary of D-Day, and coming down the amount of military restoration traffic I've seen going around, jeeps and the tanks on tank carriers. And Le Mans, of course, was the base for the German Western Command during the war, and that's where all the orders were given for the repulsion of the invaders on June the 6th, 1944. So the French still very much aware of that, and still very grateful for the Allies for ending the occupation.
In fact, there were a number of Allied officers who came into the region just after the Germans had withdrawn, who felt compelled to take a lap or two, as I understand it, of the old place, just to see what the damage had been. And it came scoop. Bearing in mind, you know, how close we are to places like Caen, Falaise, which were very, very heavy scenes of fighting post Normandy and post D-Day, or in Normandy post D-Day. The region around Le Mans, south of Chartres or southwest of Chartres, survived relatively unscathed, because of course the push from there was further east rather than further south into France, and so through Belgium.
And what damage there was to the track was mainly caused by Allied bombing. So anyway, here we are today, 70 years on from D-Day, and everyone still at it at loggerheads. It's German teams against Japanese teams, against British teams, French teams, and everyone. And here we go, Martin. Here's the ball from hell, and you don't want to do that before you've had your evening baguette.
You don't want to do it after you've had your evening baguette. I can give you that much advice. Well, let's take a look at the onboard telemetry. Full throttle down into Indianapolis, and the speed, of course, in kilometres an hour. Major break for the second part of India. Of course, you really sweep off the speed there. Still up to 180 kilometres an hour, so that's 110 miles an hour. And watch the acceleration here. Given that this is in a GTE Pro class Porsche, 180, 190, 200 kilometres an hour. 260 is 160 miles an hour, which we'll achieve in just a second, and still accelerating hard, turning into the Porsche curves at over 160 miles an hour. And look how the speed gets scrubbed off there on the brakes as he turns in. He's already knocked off nearly 100 kilometres an hour, nearly 60 miles an hour knocked off within a second of braking. And still the cornering speed here is insane, over 100 miles an hour through these corners, what is essentially a very high-powered road car with full race brakes and suspension, of course, but still, you know, and that is in the GT classes. When you see the numbers from the prototype classes, particularly with the lateral G that they pull, is utterly staggering. Great looking livery on the number 43 car. Really easy to spot that car as he sweeps through the circuit. And getting back with the Porsche there.
Yeah, and in fact, Richard Leeds didn't improve on that lap, despite the huge speed he was carrying through Porsche curves. That was very impressive, Martin.
We saw the new blood by Miranda Racing car, which has been a regular in the European Le Mans Series. It's Morgan Judd. So in the LMP2 class, we've got Orica, Morgan, Ligier, and Alpine and Zytek chassis. We've got Nissan, HPD, and Judd motors spread around almost all various different chassis combinations, actually. And this is the second of our IMSA Matmut Porsche cars. The first one, of course, with the traditional red, white, and blue of the car, of the team. And that one with the sort of outline logos on it. David Chang at the wheel of the Taycan Porsche. One of only a couple of drivers who races in spectacles. And you can see the green lights on the side of the Porsche there, showing of the Corvette, beg your pardon, showing that it is green in the Pro class, in the GTE Pro class, and with 3 lights on, it is third in the GTE Pro class. If there are no lights lit up, it means it's not in the top 3.
Yeah, just a nice view of the new coupe there from Rebellion Racing. I think, Martin, we're probably heading towards one of the best-looking cars awards for Eurosport this year. But the Ligier is also in very strong contention.
It's a sexy beast, it really is, isn't it? You know, the new Dome isn't a bad-looking car either, but the detail on these cars is just astonishing now, and a really narrow but really quite tall. And look how much window there is in the door. I mean, these are the new rules that have come in post the Alan McNish incident a couple of years ago to give the drivers much more chance of seeing something in their periphery, and to give them a much better, well, not so much all-round view, because with the hand system you can barely move your head, and because you're belted in you can barely move your shoulders, but to give them a chance of having sort of something approaching the view of one of these open prototypes, which are still competing here.
Yeah, but you'll notice with that Rebellion, you'll notice a lack of wing mirrors on the front of the car, because they're using the new Bosch system, the video system, to look behind the car. And Bart Hayden was saying he can't understand why more people haven't adopted this. He said because drivers say they get a much better view.
And without having to turn their head dramatically away from the straight ahead. You know, it's the same on your road car. If you've got your sat-nav, you want it right in your line, you know, below your line of vision, but without having to look down towards your knees because you take your eye off the road. So yes, you know, it's something that is becoming more and more a part of racing. Of course, the Audis have had it for several years. Zedric, the Nissan, has got it as well.
Audi had to have it because the drivers couldn't see over the front wings. Yeah,
could not see out. Well, it couldn't see the mirrors at all.
Yeah.
Chris Dyson, Matt McMurray, sharing this car with Tom Kimber-Smith.
16 years old, Martin.
Yep.
I mean, that's almost frightening, isn't it?
Well, the ACO refused Pedro Rodriguez a license to race here when he was 15. He had to wait 2 years and came back when he was 17. At that stage, he was comfortably, possibly by a decade, the youngest driver that had ever raced at Le Mans. Possibly not actually true. So the new blood by Morand, Morgan Judd, 15th in its class. Didn't tell us who was at the wheel of that car. We're going to take a very quick commercial break and be back with the final just under half an hour of free practice right after this. Welcome back to Eurosport, where we have a second red flag in our free practice session. That's the IMSA Matmut Porsche, the one we just saw in the pits being refueled. The 67 car, which has got the outline logos on the livery. Eric Maris, Jean-Marc Merlin and Eric Elary, who is the experienced driver in that car. It has had an impact and stopped at Marshall's Post 42, which, Mark Cole, according to your map, is that the first chicane?
That is the Forza chicane, first chicane, yeah.
Forza chicane, not the fourth chicane, the first chicane.
Forza. Yeah, Forza chicane.
So anybody under the age of 20, over the age of 20, that's a computer game.
But it was the PlayStation.
It was the PlayStation.
Chicane, and now it's been renamed. Yeah. So coming back in.
So that's one of the AM class cars, and I'm struggling to find it on my timing screen. Oh, hang on, it's Eric Maris who was driving it. So, and there you go. There is the CCTV. Incidentally, just again for new viewers, because after tonight's practice session finishes until tomorrow morning, when we start again, most of the Mulsanne Straight is still open to the public as road, and the same after tomorrow and all through Friday. Cameras do not get positioned on the Mulsanne Straight, other than the circuit's own security cameras, until the road is closed on Friday night in preparation for the race itself. So we'll have full HD camera coverage down the straight only on Saturday and Sunday. Up until then, it is CCTV cameras only, because those are permanently mounted and high in the air and out of the way of light-fingered Larrys, or onboards. Now, having a look at the Audi bodywork there, you see how the wings were cut away. Big, that the wing carries over the wheel almost like a cycle mudguard. The nose of the car very much lower. The air vents from the radiator at the front are in a very different position. It's a very much different bodywork.
You can see there on the Porsche as well how you've got these open areas now. It used to be slats, but this is all part of the thing to stop cars lifting and rolling.
See, the Audi does not have the open hole over the tyre. It has an opening in the side of the wing to release the pressure instead, and the covering over the tyre is all in one place.
It's a sort of distant relation of the NASCAR roof flap, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and it's to bleed air to stop it lifting underneath the car.
Well, that's a big impact for that Porsche.
Yeah,
he's obviously hit the rails.
The barriers there on the left, incidentally, are not bent out of the way. That's to allow the crane to. That's an access point to allow the crane to come in. So he's clattered it on the barriers and skated off down there. And you can see the 91 Pro Class Porsche. Jörg Bergmeister's car. That'll be Jörgy in the car. One of the nicest and most normal-sized drivers you'll get to know. There's Lena Gade. And incidentally, the Audi team are working their engineers, cycling their engineers, we understand, around between the cars to make sure that they all sort of keep up with what's going on in all the cars. I mean, if you watch Truth in 24, and Truth in 24 too, especially when they won in the rain with that Singleton car, the interaction between driver and engineer and the other engineers, Halden Haynes, but probably spent almost as much time talking to Lena as she spent talking to her drivers, you know, just to keep everything on track. There's a massive brains trust there, and they don't divide it by car number or by door. They just get on with it. Well, no need to stay behind other cars during the red flag period, which is why the Audi pulled out behind the very slow Porsche to go in. And there will be, though, however, obviously during yellow flag periods, you will be on the speed limiter behind other drivers. Everybody returning to the pit lane, this time with not the heavy hearts that I think a number of people, almost everybody, coming into the pits in the previous red flag, of course, will have passed the scene of, frankly, the plane crash that Loïc Duval suffered in his Audi. If you've seen the pictures online, as you may have done, you undoubtedly will in tomorrow's papers or checking the websites. Clearly the car went in high in the air into the fencing in the Porsche curves, and that just ripped the, cheese grated the back of the car to pieces. But luckily for him, again, it did go in backwards. It landed on its wheels. He was conscious and talking to the crews when they got to him to effect his stabilization and extraction. He's been taken to the medical center and then to hospital in Le Mans, where I imagine he will be spending the night, quite possibly. They'll do further checks, x-rays, and,
well, of course,
so
he does live locally. He's from Chartres, which is the cathedral city halfway between here and Paris, so not that far from home if they want to move him to a local hospital. So we just saw the 67 car there, the 67 Porsche. That was who is that?
67 Porsche, that's Eric Maris. So we had just seen him in the pits a few minutes ago. So
that's just a replay.
That's the IMSA Matmut team. Yes, they had just set him out. That was his outlap.
It's not
although it's not shown as an outlap. Oh no, that's because it's now been replaced as he stopped. That's why. So
it hasn't been a great week or 10 days for them, because Raymond Nourac, who has twice now won GT here at Le Mans, he crashed a 76 car, IMSA performance car, on the test day, and took no further part in the runnings after a big accident in the morning. So been quite expensive weekend for the Rouen Porsche dealer. So I don't think we're going to have any more running, are we? 20 minutes to go. They probably not.
Well, I don't know. It shouldn't take too long. The only problem is, of course, it takes 5 minutes for the first car out of the pits to actually cross the line. So, in 10 minutes you'll have done a flying lap and then you'll be heading back in. So there might be. Dempsey Racing getting ready to send their Porsche back out if they are able to.
Shark's teeth design on the front, or could be bunting. Could be whatever you want it to be, can't it?
I think it's just a livery. I don't know if that's an Andy Blackmore one or not, but it might well be. Who knows?
But interesting, you've noticed the car going around, absolutely no sponsorship on it at all. It's just it's black with Porsche on it, and that's it. Dempsey Racing. So
just Dempsey Racing.
So he doesn't feel the need to be allied to anyone bringing extra money. Patrick taking his racing very, very seriously, as we said, just like Paul Newman. And you talk to these guys about racing, they'll talk all night, but the moment you get off it and ask them about their film careers or music or whatever, they clam up. So it's not what they're there for. So just a quick look at some of the action sideshows, attractions of Le Mans, and they get younger every year, the spectators, so do the mechanics. So, at this time of just 19 minutes running left, Toyota are on top of the pile after practice, not unexpectedly, given their performance at the last 3 World Endurance Championship 6-hour races. Won them all. Audi second with André Lotterer. Alex Wurz third for Toyota. Loïc Duval's time, 4th fastest time, still stands, and he was still the fastest man in the last 3.5 hours in the first sector.
Eric Maris has been instructed to report to the race director immediately, as has the driver of car 75, Marcus Paltala.
So it would suggest they had a coming together then.
It would suggest that they might have. Either that or Paltala has done something very naughty, like go barreling through yellow flags.
Yeah, but Marcus, not like Marcus, the Finnish driver. I mean, he's a front runner, hasn't he? Finished second in the Blancpain in Endurance Series back in 2011. This is his third Le Mans. So he's pretty experienced, showing that 75 Porsche, the Pro Speed car with Manu Collard and François Perrodo.
Pro Speed don't seem to have quite as much good luck as they have bad luck, is probably the best way of saying it. There is the IMSA Matmut Porsche. Looks like it's had a spin and clattered the barriers backwards. Cars at pit exit ready to go, and as that car's on the flatbed, and as long as the barriers aren't badly damaged, then they should be able to rock on, frankly. Pro Class Porsche and a Roubaillon ready to go out, and being joined by... I know that car, and I can't think which one it is now. I'm gonna have to attend to my sponsor. Incidentally, spottersguides.com. Andy Blackmore is your friend and ours. Of course, it's Michel Frey, Frank Meyer, and John Lancaster. Race performance Orica Judd. I should have recognised that from behind, from my Le Mans Series, or European Le Mans Series races.
And if you want a copy of that, go on to dailysportscar.com. They've got the link to that, and you can print them out free of charge. You can print them A4, or you can even print them A3 if you want.
Or as our German colleagues have done, they've got one and printed it on an A1 sheet. And if you want to know what that is, it's essentially the size of a king-size duvet. And then they've brought it here and gone, their spotter's guide is bigger than their booth. So they're now trying to work out how they're going to put it up and still somehow be able to see the monitors.
Well, they can come and look at ours if they want.
Well, I'll tell you what, I did suggest to them they put it on the other side of the Ford chicane on one of the tyre walls, and we can all see it quite clearly from here. So.
And of course, the other thing we have, which has been going for years, is the black marker of doom.
The marker of doom is
as soon as you're confirmed as an official retirement or an obvious retirement, the black cross goes over your car. Number 22 Millennium, unfortunately, is already out.
I can't believe that. Even as free practice gets underway, Mark was wielding the marker of doom with impunity because the car was withdrawn.
G-Drive pulling out right in front of the number 8 Toyota in the pit lane, a little bit close. 14 car then getting ready to go back out. That's the Porsche of Neil Jani. That's the car that he is sharing with Mark Lieb and Romain Dumas. The other one has Timo Bernhardt, Mark Webber and Brendan Hartley.
Session will restart in 40 seconds. So we'll have 15 minutes left to go. And do you know what, Mark? we were talking to the engineers yesterday about how much these cars must be driven on the limit. Not just it's ideal, but it is almost absolutely imperative that they are never not driven at 100% of their capacity. I did think that's going to make life very tough in traffic for the Pro Class drivers, the drivers of the factory-built hybrids in P1, and that is going to make life very tough for them in traffic. And already we've had 2 red flags. Now, only one of them, admittedly, involved a P car, and we don't know whether it was a solo incident or not. But I think we are going to have a lot of traffic-related incidents, and perhaps more than ever before.
Look at this. Everyone's desperate to get out for the last, what is now 14 minutes, 50 seconds.
Because if we don't, they'll lose a full quarter of free practice, an hour of the 4 hours, and none of those 4 hours will have been, we'll just drive around and come up with a plan at the end of it. All of them will have been plans to the minute what they're going to do.
So they've just got unfinished business, as you're suggesting. Incidentally, we saw the green Krohn car there. Ben Collins on board that now, the Stig, as he was, and Ben making a welcome return to Le Mans, so look forward to catching up with him sometime over the weekend.
Bumped into him in scrutineering. He was very pleased to be back. Last time we raced here was with Tommy Erdos and Mike Newton, incidentally, for the RML team in P2, and Tommy Erdos is coming down on Friday with some guests, and so hopefully the Brazilian will pop in here and have a chat, because he's never not entertaining to talk to.
We'll try and get Ben up as well when he's got a moment. Of course, he also raced here with Ascari, remember, in 2002, Klaus Smart's car, and whatever happened to Klaus? Well, of course, he went off and built a circuit in Spain, and a great circuit.
Still races occasionally as well.
Yes, in historic racing.
And of course his daughter Pauline is Tom Coronel's partner. So I will be chatting to her. She's got a very Dutch accent, and of course she's, with a Dutchman and lives in Holland, and we're chatting away. And then he got onto Tunnock's tea cakes, and I'm going, hang on a minute, what's wrong with this picture? And then she said, well,
she grew up in Aberdeen.
Her mum's Scots, and she said, I've just been with the kids. We've been for a week's holiday. I said, would you go somewhere nice and hot and sunny? She said, Aberdeen. And I go, hang on, what? So, of course, yes, Klaus is an oil man, always was, and, married a Scottish lady, and her mum is in Aberdeen. She's still an Aberdonian, half Aberdonian and half Dutch. That's
what a great mixture.
Can you imagine how mangled the accent is? With no disrespect.
So, hello, Chitty.
Yeah, hello, Chitty.
Wave to mum.
Well, that's because obviously if you want that, you need a chitty.
Yeah.
See, again, ask your father, younger viewers, what a chitty is.
Yeah, he knows they're watching him.
It's not rude. Out goes the Rebellion. Incidentally, I think we need to catch up with Radio Le Mans. They've come up with apparently with a very good way of defining kilojoules by converting them into profiteroles. so that might well work. Certainly for Nick Damon, that'll work very well indeed.
Excellent.
Oh, it's lunchtime.
Yeah.
Mark Patterson, who also races in the British GT Championship for United Autosports with United Autosports.
And good to see Johnny Merlin back on track. Yes. Of course, he's been here as one of our driver experts over the years when he didn't have a drive. Now he has got the drive.
Well, we'll be hearing from him as well. Yep. He's going to come up and see us and hopefully going to do a little bit on Ram Racing, the reigning European Le Mans Series GT champions.
Yep, he would be there with Matt Griffin, won't he? And of course they were racing as well. Matt Griffin was racing at Portimao at the weekend. So did that Porsche actually hit the barriers and the oil drums and everything?
I think probably, yeah. The don't go straight on a bit.
Luckily it was going at slightly less speed than Davidson was, but out goes the number 3 Audi. Albuquerque on board. Here's another Le Mans rookie. This is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, and actually I talked to him on in Scrutineering as well. He was very, very, very excited about the whole thing. You know, he's been with Audi for several years. Very good single-seater driver in his young career. And just so excited to be here. You know, he's done DTM and so and more recently he's been racing the GT3 Audi R8. But to get into one of these bad boys, he is so excited. Yeah. I couldn't be more pleased to see him here. Actually, he's such a lovely guy.
And in fact, he took that Audi R8 to victory at Daytona last year in GT. So that's where he was picked up by Audi, when they thought, yeah, we need this guy for Le Mans now if he can survive Daytona.
Keith McRae was asking us about rules in the pit lane on Twitter. He said we seem to see a lot of press and media guys in the pit lane with helmets on. Is that a rule for this year, or do they have to be a certain spec? Well, it's not a rule for this year. That came in 4 years ago now. No, you have to wear a helmet. Generally, nobody wears a full-face motorcycle helmet because it makes life as a photographer or a journalist very tough. A lot of them wear open-face motorcycle helmets. There is no sort of minimum rule. So in fact, you will see people with cycle helmets on, and to a degree, actually, some of the teams have a variation on a high-impact cycle helmet as well. And the only people who do not have to wear one, you'll see Liz Halliday, Sebastian Tiffert, our pit reporters. Pit reporters don't have to wear them.
Another red
again,
flag.
Second chicane.
Debris on track.
And of course, yellow. Caution breeds caution, doesn't it? We're now inside 10 minutes. We may now be at the stage where this doesn't restart, and that's going to be terrifying for us, because the smell from the catering unit, which is right behind us to cater for the TV program, is wafting up through the door, and we're going to have to walk past that and go and find a sandwich somewhere. So down to the second chicane. Where's the debris?
Well, the marshals are picking stuff up there, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, now, a red flag for debris at the chicane.
Well, it's a whole car, not just debris.
Yes, it is a whole car.
It's a Ferrari as well.
And that's the orange one, isn't it? And that is the number 60.
Well, you can see the marks on the track.
No, it's not. That's the... Now, number 60 has shown us stopped, but that looks to me like the 90 car, Frankie Montecalvo, Gianluca Roda and Paolo Ruberti car. If it's 60, then it's Peter Ashleman, Lorenzo Carzay and Raffaele Giammaria.
Yeah, but you can see the marks there. He's obviously gone on. He's pulled to the car's snagged to the right, hasn't it? Hit the barriers and then gone into the...
He's put a wheel off into the dirt under braking, hasn't he? It's dropped off the circuit and spat him off.
Well, I would assume that will end the running now. It's red flags. Everyone's got to come back to the pits. There's 8.5 minutes left, so they're not going to go out again. Now, that really is a bit of a noise, isn't it, for everybody that's got geared up for a couple of laps.
Now, we're seeing a number of cars shown as stopped on the circuit, none of which is the 90 car. Frankie Montecalvo was on an out lap. 60 is shown as stopped, and that is the orange car.
Right, so that'll be the...
Also shown as stopped is Tommy Milner. We know he's stopped. Stopped is Eric Maris. We know that second IMSA Matmut Porsche car stopped. The Munneman Zytek 41 Greaves Motorsport. Greaves have two cars here, by the way. You see the 41 Greaves Motorsport Zytek is stopped on track. We know that. Also shown as stopped is Mark Schulzitsky. Now, did we see that Ligier Nissan stopped somewhere? I don't remember seeing that. That's the one he shares with Jan Mardenborough and who's? Oh, Alex Bradley. Oh, hang on. Hang on.
Yeah, first ball should be quick, I think.
Well, it says it's Frank.
Copy that. DM.
I was trying to hear a little bit more of that. Yeah, unfortunately, that was so buried in our mix. I have no idea.
It's confirmed it is Frankie Montecalvo.
Okay.
So back to the original spot you made. Oh,
yeah, no, that is now, Frankie's car is now shown as stopped.
And look, there's P2 car coming in with damage. So
is that's Mark Schulzitsky then, I'm guessing?
Yeah. Did they run to
That's
back
the
of
24 car. No, that's not the 35 car.
No, it's...
Okay.
Jan Charouz.
In the words almost of Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, would everybody stop getting crashed, please?
Well, they are going to stop getting crashed because the session
will not resume.
Officially ended. Okay. We will be back at...
That is ACO speak for... Right, OK, we've had enough of this now. If you can't be trusted, you're not going out to play with your friends. We will be back.
Well, that's nearly 4 hours of... quite a lot of action. Probably the biggest action we'll have to see is the crash at Roch Duval. And
I don't want another 4 hours like those ones. Actually, I don't want another hour like the second hour. So yes, for those who are just coming in and just catching up, welcome, and welcome back from work.
And goodbye in a moment.
Yes, we're going to leave in a moment, but we will be back on Eurosport tonight, 10 till midnight, and hopefully there won't be any tennis or anything else getting in the way of that stage.
And if you're British Eurosport, that's 9 till 11. So
9 till 11, so even easier for you. So we're making... Aren't we good to you people? Yeah. Not only are we at a sensible time for bed for work on Friday, Thursday, but also we'll be bringing you 2 hours of qualifying action from the Circuit Permanent de la Sarthe here in France. So the 2014 running of the Le Mans 24 Hours is already underway, and we will not be finishing this session. So fastest times in the classes, let's just run through them since they're not on screen. Toyota, Audi, Toyota, 8, 2 and 7 are the top 3 cars in the LMP1 class, with Audi in 4th, the number 1 car, and then 3 Audi in 5th place ahead of the first of the Porsches. Porsche 6th and 7th, number 20, number 14, and then 8th and 9th in the class are the 2 Rebellions, the brand new Rebellion chassis. Fastest car in P2 is the PlayStation drivers, number 35 Ligier, the number 48 Oreca second, that's the Murphy's prototype car, number 37 Oreca third in the class, that's the SMP Racing Oreca Nissan, the 36 Alpine, that is 4th in the class and 5th in the class. Oh, there we go. You can see is the number 50 car, that's the Morgan of Olivier Pla. I'm trying to relate my class list to what's on the screen there.
Yeah.
And there you can see the fastest the fastest of the GT cars is still the fastest AM car.
Yeah, Nicky Tim's time.
The all-Danish number 95 ahead of now the 51 Ferrari, which has got ahead of the best of the Astons. Darren Turner set the time, Bruno Senna was the last driver in that. Orange for your AM class, green for your Pro class in the GTs, and you can see the rest of the times there. The only car that has not completed a lap, I'm afraid, is the Garage 56 entry, the exploratory hybrid electric Nissan Ziod RC, or Zedric as I'm calling it, in honour of the greatest Nissan of all time, the Nissan Cedric.
Yeah. Almost as good as the Silvia.
Sylvia's mother told me that, but I'm not entirely sure. One for the Dr. Hook fans among you there.
Yeah, so what Martin's been showing, of course, means nothing to, as far as the grid's concerned. This was free practice and qualifying proper starts, as he says, 10 o'clock here in Le Mans, but that will be 9 o'clock UK time.
Well, don't forget that, as well as our regular live on-track action, our crew here are working on 24 minutes, the daily programme that'll go out every evening, and then there'll be one preceding the race and immediately after the race on Saturday and Sunday. So this is when they will be on this evening. Don't forget that Liz Halliday with Adelaide and Sebastian will be interviewing drivers and teams throughout the weekend for 24 minutes. Awful lot of behind-the-scenes information to catch up with there then. So enjoy that. Enjoy your dinner. We're going to go and grab something to eat in the next couple of hours, and we'll be back on from 9 to 11 British summertime, 10 to midday Central European, 8 to 10 Greenwich Mean Time. Wherever it is that you're watching us, stay tuned. Mark Cole, myself, and Liz Halliday and Jeremy Shaw will be back in the booth for qualifying session 1 to get underway here at La Sarthe. Until then, a very good afternoon to you from Le Mans.